Welcome everyone to August 23rd's regular Board of Trustees meeting. We are resuming from an earlier executive session. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for North Idaho College is resuming at August 23rd at 6:53 from executive session, and a quorum is present of all of us. Let's dive right into it. If you would please stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ken Burke, if you would please come forward and give us a board development update.
Thank you, Board of Trustees, Mr. President, members of the community. It's an honor to be with you here this evening. I also wish to acknowledge my colleague, Dr. Debbie DeThomas, who is one of our ACCT consultants. She's really the star of the team. And I want to go over with the board and for those in the community what this board is doing as far as ongoing training. And since the last board report, there have been 2 training sessions. One on July 19th, where we got together from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. 4 trustees were present. And really the focus on that training, which was pretty nimble training because we had just received the report from the accreditation team. And so we went through each of the recommendations that were due in the September 14th report, that is the deadline for that to be submitted to the accreditation authority. There are certain recommendations what the accreditation authority has made. And each of those, it may have involved board involvement, obviously college involvement, and we really focused, Dr. DeThomas and I, over with each of the recommendations and what's the board's responsibility for those recommendations and how to address those recommendations. So that was the emphasis of that training session. The next training session was just yesterday from 3 o'clock to 5:30. 4 trustees were able to attend that. It was a very full agenda. We start off with an update of the accreditation plan that we discussed at the July meeting and how things were going. And Steve, of course, who's the liaison, was an important part of that discussion. We next talked about the policies, which are in flux, of the active involvement of 2 of your trustees who are so committed to this cause at a meeting, literally, I think, hundreds of hours on working on trustees. Trustee Wagner and Trustee Zimmerman have put on a tremendous amount of time, as well as my colleague, Dr. DeThomas, has been the really focal point on that, and your president, and working on those policies. And I think you'll see a lot of progress made at the next board meeting as far as policies adoption. And this is all part of the accreditation responsibilities also. The next item we discussed at yesterday's training session were board goals. Again, a best practice and something that the accreditation authority is looking to as far as the board having goals and stating them and voting on those goals. This college is going to be embarking on a strategic planning initiative. This is a very intense, comprehensive thing that involves the community, the college, the board. It's bigger than any one entity when you get into strategic planning. Thankfully, again, my colleague, Dr. DeThomas, has tremendous experience in this area. She headed up this part of the training of talking about the board's involvement, how strategic planning works, the importance of going forward with a consultant, an outside consultant to help with this, and just how pervasive the strategic plan is for a college to undertake. It is an intense effort and one which will need board support and, of course, the leadership of your president. We next went over the president's goals. This is something, again, not only a best practice, but almost a requirement as far as accreditation. And so this has been an ongoing topic that we've had at our training session. And that you can see evidence of that because it's part of the agenda for today's meeting, the president's goals. The last part is an item which is another topic which we really hit for the first time in yesterday's training, but will be ongoing from here on out. And you'll see it tonight, is effective board meetings and how do we make the board meetings as effective as possible to meet the needs of this community and this college. I wanted to compliment your, I should mention too that the board is committed to future training sessions. At yesterday's training session, it was decided when we would have dates in the future, and we picked dates in September, October, and November for future ongoing training sessions. And the training sessions, just so you know, for those of you who may be with us for the first time here, Dr. DeThomas and I are representatives from the Association of Community College Trustees. It's a national organization that has expertise and observes best practices in governance as far as community colleges are concerned, and that's the entity that we're representing here and working with the board on. We've decided to take a well-earned vacation from training in December, so we're going to skip December and do our Christmas shopping and exchanging of gifts at that time, but we're going to have intense training in September, October, and November building up to that. I just want to compliment your board. It is a committed effort for them not only to attend this board meeting, to attend these committee meetings, but also to attend these training sessions, and they are engaged and dedicated to the purpose, and that's certainly a great reflection on all of them. So I say congratulations, board, and we're looking forward to future trainings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We're going to go straight to public comment, but before we do, I'd like to just set the tone and what we're focused on here. We're focused on student success and NIC's mutual success for our community that we serve. And I hope that when people come to the microphone, that their tone is respectful of that, and that, so if along those lines too, beyond just public comment, as chair, I've kind of taken it upon myself to help us, each one of us trustees, to focus on, I think, what would help all of us. And maybe, hopefully, Attorney McNamara, could you hand this out to each of the trustees while we go to public comment? This is kind of just a self-survey that we can hopefully opt into about important things I think accreditation cares about. So, saying no more, Karen Shepler, if you'd come to the microphone, and Ed DePriest, you're on deck.
Hello, my name is Karen Shepler. I'm going to address first board governance. As I stated in the last meeting, I realized that not everyone has the same experiences. So in the interest of continuing to level set the board and what the community can expect from you, I've made sure that you all have a gift of a one-page primer for critical thinking skills questions that can be used anytime you're making important decisions that affect the college. I've made sure that they are in sleeves so you can put them in your binder and reference as you guys are making these difficult decisions. Second, I want to address legal counsel. I know you guys just made a decision downstairs, or I expect you did, but I wanted to address the moving the needle on student success in regards to legal counsel. Legal counsel must be aware of and adhere to applicable laws and the code of conduct and ethics put forth by the Board Association. If they're not doing that, we need to rethink what we're doing. We need to have a broad base of education to make sure we're handling all of the areas the college needs us to have. They need to be certified. It means they need to be currently certified by the board or the Bar Association. If they're not, we should not be hiring them. We need to have a diverse pool of resources to handle all of the areas the college needs. And they have to have the experience and the expertise to be efficient in handling our collegiate matters so that our billable hours stay down. If you made a decision that doesn't meet any of those 5 areas, I encourage you to stop, go back downstairs, and rethink your decision. Otherwise, I would ask that the college have the right to retain their own legal counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed DePriest, and Robert Shepler, you're on deck.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity here to speak to you and to the audience here. I'm going to speak on a couple things and kind of wing it in a way. But what I'm looking at here is the evaluation criteria for the legal issue that's on the agenda tonight. And I'm going to assume that many of the people have seen it. when they rated Boyle's Law and Stevens Clay, experience related to the firm and principal attorney in matters related to potential college business. Boyle's was 46%, Stevens Clay 100%. Firm's experience in working with governmental agencies at the federal, state, and local levels on matters relevant to the college, including compliance requirements. Boyle's 54, Stevens Clay 99. Firm's apparent ability to provide timely service to the college, Boyle's 70, Stevens Clay 98. Proposed price structure, Boyle's 88, Stevens Clay 97. Proximity of local office to NIC main campus, 0 points if over 100 miles away. Boyle's Law 85, Stevens Clay 65. Overall RFQ materials received, Boyle's Law 60, Stevens Clay 97. Then there were some apparently additional questions. They would like to see client reference that are relevant to North Idaho College. Boyle's Law, no response provided. Examples of insurance coverage, negotiation, risk management experience. Boyle's Law, no response provided. Years of experience representing higher education clients, no response provided. Boyle's Law. Sheriff, you have had any criminal or civil suits against you in the past 7 years or worked with us to conduct a background check? Boyle's Law, no response provided. Share the proximity to your firm's place of business to the North Idaho College main campus and commute time there and to. Boyle's Law, no response provided. Stevens Clay provided a response to all of those. So, I don't know, I would hope.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry you're running out of time. I think that's Michael McGowan. You're on deck.
My
Please.
name is Robert Shepler. I'd like to speak tonight to the accreditation issues that the college is currently going over. When the response from the accreditation company came in, there were approximately a dozen points that were still needed to be worked upon. And while some progress has been made on some of the points, the training, I think, is an admirable thing, and I believe the board is learning to work better together. There are other instances that have not been addressed yet, and I truly believe that those are going to hold our accreditation if we don't address them. There were several letters of no confidence that I have yet to see a resolution to yet. There are financial obligations that the college is still paying out. Dr. South's contract, there's still, Mr. McComber, to the best of my knowledge, actually resigned last Monday effectively. That hasn't been resolved yet. And yet he's still here at the meeting taking notes and expending tax dollars to do so. And as a taxpayer in the county, I find that very frustrating. We just had a new batch of students start classes this week. I believe we're addressing through the initiatives that have been put forth in the spring that our attendance numbers are very close to where they were prior to all this coming down in December. I think they're very similar to what last year's numbers were. And that's a good thing. That's a point that was raised with the accreditation as well. Some things are going in the right direction. A lot of things are not being addressed at all. And we're still walking a tightrope. And we have until, I believe it is, another 18 months or so to resolve those things. The community doesn't want to wait 18 months. The community needs to know. The students deserve to know, and so do the staff and faculty that rely upon their jobs here. And so I urge the board to be a little more expedient with some of the items that need to be addressed, get them resolved so the community can move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ McCain.
Russ is after Michael, isn't he?
It's McLean. We've been, what?
I'm sorry.
Did I pimp him?
I called. I messed up the order. If you're fine with it.
Go
it's-
ahead.
So. Okay, we'll have him go next. Yeah. Forgive me. Sorry.
Good evening, all. So I've been talking about enrollment, declining enrollment at NIC vis-a-vis the accreditation equation. Excuse me. I guess this will work. So the main thing was, I mentioned last time, was that NWCC report, evaluation report, said that there was a decline in the last 10 years of 49% here in enrollment. So it turns out that a former trustee approached me afterwards and said he had some information about that. I said, great. He referred me to the State Board of Education website. I got the information, have it in my hand right here. And we won't count College of Eastern. What he wanted to say was that other community colleges inside Idaho have had rising enrollment over the past some whatever. I didn't know what that was, but now I do. Got the information from the State Board of Education website. We can't count College of Eastern Idaho because it's an outlier. I could explain that, but not right now, no time. College of Southern Idaho, increase over the last 5 years of 40%. Impressive. College of Western Idaho, increase of 34%. North Idaho College, well, actually it's not a decline, plus 16%. So 16% or more, less than other colleges, but still positive. So what I'm asking myself is, how does the NWCCU say minus 49% over the last 10 years, when over the last 5 years, according to the State Board of Education, it's been plus 16%. There's something wrong here. So when they criticize some members of the Board of Trustees for not giving enough attention or concern to declining enrollment, and what they want to include it as a concern in the accreditation equation, that's not correct. They need to just get off that. We have other problems, and we need to focus on the real problem.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. And Russ McCain. McLean, thank you.
It's McLean, just like the building across the street. We've been through this a time or two. Now, I went to this workshop meeting yesterday, Mackenzie, and I gotta ask, are you on the ganja? Or are you that stupid? I gotta know.
Russ.
Well, no, that's fair. You should have seen it.
Do you have an agenda topic you're looking for?
Yeah, the
We're
accreditation.
trying to get business going.
Yeah, I know. So the accreditation, I listened to everything, and they didn't take into hand, you got a year, which means January people can file to run as trustees. And I wonder if that's part of that year. They're counting on changing over some people.
Thank you for speaking. Okay, the public comment is done. We are moving to celebrating success. Dr. Swain, if you would introduce our speakers.
Sure. We have a new volleyball coach, and so I'm going to bring up Sean Noel and ask him to introduce Brittany Tileman, and she's going to bring up her team, which I think are all outside waiting.
Yeah, they're coming.
There we go. Okay. I love it when a plan comes together. All right. They're not at all shy on the court, so.
All right, Chair McKenzie, fellow trustees, President Swain, Attorney Macomber. Our women's volleyball team, I'm pleased to be here to introduce our women's volleyball team. A new head coach this year, a new assistant coach as well this year. And without counting, I believe 16 members of our volleyball team. Real quick about Brittany, Lake City High School graduate, attended NIC 15 and 16, played volleyball and softball, was a setter on the volleyball team, and then transferred on to Montana, played down at Montana. And again, this is her first season. Assistant coach, Melissa Fleshman, went to Coeur d'Alene High School. From there, went directly to Montana. It's the connection, I think, where they met, just taking a guess. I got a bunch of different things, but I'll just say an outside when you were at Montana. Again, first season as assistant coach. So I'll turn it over to Brittany to kind of talk about the team and introduce them. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Missy and I actually go back. We played against each other in club volleyball in high school, then competed against each other in high school, which was always fun. Roommates in college, so we really go back, which is cool. But no, this team, I'm super excited for it. Kind of my first round of recruiting. Kelsey Stanley did an awesome job setting me up to kind of build this program and keep it rolling from what she's done. Teaching me how she recruited, and then getting to bring in my own group of freshmen and stay with the sophomores. I was the assistant coach last year. But we're just going to keep running. NWAC regional champions last year for the East, and then we placed 4th overall last year. So just looking to continue that, have a better finish at the NWAC tournament, and yeah, just go from there. So I'm going to let all the girls introduce themselves. So we're just going to file them through. You can just do a circle right here. Missy, do you have anything? Go Timberwolves? No. Well, yeah, that too. Yeah.
Hello? Okay. Hello, my name is Maddie Harper. I'm from Blackfoot, Idaho. I'm a right side hitter, and I'm a freshman this year.
Hi, my name's Paige Baker. I'm from Oregon City, Oregon. I'm a DS libero, and I'm a freshman.
Hi. I am Jessica Stires. I'm a sophomore this year. I'm a right side hitter, and I am from Spokane, Washington.
My name's Anna Ellingbo. I'm a freshman this year. I'm an outside hitter, and I'm from Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
I'm Allie Hone. I'm from Idaho Falls, Idaho, and I am a freshman DS libero.
My name is Morgan Claus. I am an outside. I'm from Moscow, Idaho, and I'm also a freshman.
I'm Gracie Kiesel. I'm from Mapleton, Utah, and I'm a freshman outside hitter.
Hi, I'm Riley Hartwig. I'm from Post Falls, Idaho. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a middle.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Minden. I'm from Post Falls, Idaho. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a libero.
Hi, I'm Haley Hillman. I'm from Shelley, Idaho, and I'm a freshman and also a setter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lily Leidenfrost. I'm from Moscow, Idaho, and I am a middle setter, and I'm a freshman.
Hi, everyone. Omaira Valle. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm a sophomore libero DS.
Hi, my name's Abby Beaton. I'm from Pasco, Washington, and I'm a middle and a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Amelia Kinikini. I'm from Harriman, Utah, and I'm a freshman. I'm also a DS libero.
Hello, my name's Rachel Stacy. I'm a sophomore outside hitter this year.
From?
I'm from Helena, Montana.
Any questions or any comments? Good?
No, we look forward to another great season from our volleyball team, and we're really excited at all the things that you did last year. If you were for the sophomores, and look forward to the same kind of performance this year. Great to have you here.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
You have something? Thank you. I was about to say it. Oh, Jesse. Jesse has one more thing.
Okay. We have a scrimmage at home on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at home. Like right across the way, right over here in the gym. If you want,
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
if you want, you can come and swing by and say hi. We're going to be balling out. Roll cards.
Love the promotion. Definitely do go. Tuesday, 7 o'clock. All right. ASNIC, Michael Haberman, would you please address us?
A lot of energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's great.
I used to have that.
Yeah.
Going off of bullet points tonight, so it'll be a little bit different than last time.
Great tie, though.
Thank you. Good evening, board, President Swain, Chair McKenzie. I'm happy we have 3 senator positions open for ASNIC still. So we are happily taking applications. If any students here would like to apply, or any community members have any family or friends that they know going to this college, 3 positions are still open, and I'd be happy to interview them anytime. ASNIC attended Green Dot training last week. So it's basically just kind of like an awareness training. bringing light to a lot of issues that we could face on campus. We also attended the Ally Conference, and that conference is an accessibilities conference, and it was really interesting seeing a few of the keynotes. There was, I believe the panel was supporting students on the autism spectrum in higher education, and that was one of the highlights of the conference, but it was a little bit of like a training because I learned a lot. ASNIC has been helping with the Week of Welcome, and so earlier today we handed out some free t-shirts to all the students who were able to pass by, and I also walked into the Student Union building quite a bit, trying to make sure everyone knew that they could have gotten a free t-shirt. And we have some upcoming events for Student Events Board planned. Cardinal Cruise is happening this Friday. We have events at the Recreation Center happening tomorrow, and Glow Tag is at 8:30 tonight, so I don't know how long this board meeting is going to go, but there may be college students running around with glow sticks around their necks, so be careful on your way home. Maybe drive a little bit slower. One could just jump out at you like a deer, so that wouldn't be good. I have not met with the ASNIC team. We don't meet with the first week due to convocation. And I want to get all of the new senators who have onboarded all prepped and ready to go before we get new senators in. So this Tuesday, we're planning on doing formal training in our meeting. And then we'll be reading over the spring survey for inspiration on projects that we could pursue in the future. As the last thing, I would like to thank Dr. Swain, Trustee Wagner, and Trustee Zimmerman, as well as Debbie Thomas on their wonderful work for the subcommittee, the policy subcommittee. You guys have been doing a really good job, and I showed up to both of the board training sessions, and I could tell that you guys are putting in the hours for it, earning your pay. Do you guys have any questions or comments for me?
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Banducci.
Michael, when you're an ASNIC, an ASNIC officer, you get some sort of scholarship, correct? Is there some sort of compensation for that or some sort of help with your education? How does that work for you guys? Do you get something for the extra time that you're putting in?
So for senators, it's a $400 a month monthly stipend.
Okay.
And there are scholarship opportunities. Generally, from my experience, I've noticed they've gone into the candidates who have been voted in over the spring generally get kind of not first picks, but generally you get scholarships before you enter college, and if you're getting interviewed after you go to college, you may not be favored as much, if that makes any sense.
And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was hoping to use this kind of as a recruiting tool for you. You got 3 spots. So you're saying anybody that knows people or to do it, and I'm trying to help you show that there's some incentive maybe for some of these young people to get involved.
No, yeah, and it's a wonderful resume builder, wonderful opportunity for the future. It's honestly really fun, and as I spoke at convocation, I never thought that I would be involved in college. I was not a dedicated high school student at all, but meeting all the staff, all the faculty here has been a life-changing experience. So if you want to get more involved in the college, I would say it's definitely worth it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment afterwards.
I think we're done. Thank you very much.
I want to say something on
Trustee Banducci.
Oh, not with you, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
No, when you're done, I wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
So, in between. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Excellent job.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Banducci.
I want to catch you before you go. This is what I was talking about at the Friday meeting with the extracurricular cohort.
I got it.
And how we would treat the scholarships, whether it be the ASNIC or the pep band or the athletes, and how we can help the students that are doing the extracurricular activities and be fair across the board with that. And that's an example. If we got 3 open positions, what can we do to incentivize people, to have the, well, anyway, everybody treated as
Got it.
one district.
Point made.
position? Okay.
Hear you. Thank you. Matt Piekarski from Faculty Assembly.
That was Kathleen.
I screwed that up. Who wants to go? So, who's, all right. Okay, Kathleen Miller Green, Faculty Assembly. So.
She's the tall one.
Sorry, I need a pen.
Good evening, Chair McKenzie, trustees, President Swain, colleagues, students, and community members. My name is Kathleen Miller Green. I'm an associate professor of child development. I've been a teacher for over 30 years, with the last 18 years spent teaching right here at this exceptional community college in North Idaho. I'm honored to come before you, duly elected Faculty Assembly Chair for 2023-2024. I wanted to take just a quick moment to thank my colleague and Vice Chair, John Gardunia, for his excellent representation of Faculty Assembly reports at the May and June meetings while I was out of the country. I don't anticipate any further absences, but it is really nice to know that I can count on my Vice Chair to step in at a moment's notice. Faculty Assembly met last Thursday, August 17th, for the first time in the 2023-2024 academic year. The main work of this meeting was to bring to you the faculty requests for action items that could begin to address both the multiple votes of no confidence since February 2021, as well as specific NWCCU recommendations related to our status of show cause. This first statement was voted for unanimously by the assembled full-time faculty, as well as a unanimous advisory vote from the adjunct professors that were present. Faculty Assembly has looked over the concerns of past no confidence votes. In the spirit of cooperation, we are offering 3 recommendations as initial concrete actions that would begin earning confidence. Number 1, commit in a clearly identified, transparent timeline and detailed action plan to addressing the NWCC show cause sanctions in a timely manner to address NIC accreditation. And that refers to NWCCU recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 9. Number 2, finish all board policy revisions in order to clearly articulate the board's role, functions, scope, as well as limitations of board impact on NIC operations in a way that is consistent with accreditation standards. This is referred to NWCCU recommendations 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 3, NIC should immediately pay off Dr. Greg South's remaining contract and sever NIC's tie with him as an interim president on administrative leave. This single action would confirm that Dr. Nick Swain is the singular NIC president in charge of all NIC operations. This refers to NWCCU recommendations 2, 3, 10, and 11. The faculty also asked me to bring before you an additional statement concerning the hiring of legal counsel for the college. In a vote of unanimous acclamation, the faculty of North Idaho College urges the Board of Trustees to complete the hiring process for the most qualified educational law firm to support NIC. This refers to NWCCU recommendations 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7. With those statements, I am open for questions.
I recommend maybe some trustees process their thoughts for the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Matt Piekarski from Staff Assembly. Got this one right this time. Did I say the name right? So, yeah. Close? Cool.
It works.
Good evening, board and board trustees and President Swain. I do want to say it probably was a little mixed up. I was faculty for about 5.5 years with the carpentry program, but now I'm staff, so there we go. Anyway, I've been working here at NIC for about 13 years, and I'm the new chair of staff assembly. I also want to recognize our new vice chair, who's Colleen Ward, and our secretary, who's Amber Has. On July 27th, we had our annual staff assembly picnic. For fun, we had a dunk tank and cakewalk to raise money for students in need. Altogether, we raised $610, which during our staff assembly meeting on August 10th, we decided the money raised at the picnic should be used to purchase Winco family gift cards for the grocery store. These cards will get distributed through student services for those students that need a little extra help during the semester. Since our staff assembly meeting was earlier in August, we did not have much to discuss beyond the picnic and welcoming new staff members to NIC. That being said, we did have a separate staff assembly executive meeting a week ago to discuss our goals for the year. During this meeting, the staff assembly executive committee wanted to recognize and send their appreciation to the board for participating in ongoing training sessions with ACCT and how it demonstrates their commitment to working with the NWCCU to address and resolve the accreditation situation. We also discussed the staff assembly's past votes of no confidence in the board trustees and the specific outcomes we would like to see from the board. Our plan is to continue this discussion in our staff assembly meeting in September so we can get input from the entire assembly. We will provide the expectations discussed in our meeting in writing to the next board meeting in September. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
September, when do you get the whole assembly, staff assembly? Did you have a date for that?
September.
Yeah, I've looked, but we meet, I think it's about 2 weeks before the September.
So there's kind of executive committee and then the whole staff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Trustee Banducci.
Just curious, from carpentry to what are you doing now?
I'm the maintenance supervisor in facilities. Yeah.
Cool.
Not too far to stretch.
You know how to fix things.
Yeah. Or we try.
Looking forward to hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no questions? To Jason Drosik from the Senate. Or Drosh. Jason Drosh.
Don't ask me for help.
Thank you, Chair McKenzie. I'll give you 5 more attempts. It's a common thing with students that I, let them guess my name and things like that. Board members, President Swain, thank you for having me here. I'm pleased to represent the College Senate for this academic year. My name is Jason Drosh.
Drosh.
I'll forgive it. It's common to mispronounce that. We haven't yet met, but I have the distinct honor and pleasure of representing the College Senate this year. We have quite a bit of business to attend to. The main focus of our first meeting, which happens tomorrow, is onboarding our new senators, creating our game plan for moving through the policies and procedures that will need to be revised or looked at as part of our ongoing schedule. So I hope at the next meeting to be able to bring forward some important things that Senate has worked on, but at this time, I just wanted to make sure I introduced myself and said hello. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I don't think we have any questions. That was pretty good. All right. President Swain.
Well, I'm gonna start by just giving a thanks, and I think this is from all the faculty and staff. We really haven't had a chance to reflect after the budget was approved and have a public meeting, but I think universally the staff and faculty and employees have responded very positively to the 8% increase in salaries, and I think that goes a long way towards helping us stabilize our staff and faculty for the upcoming school year, which is also one of the issues on the that was up for accreditation. So a big thanks to the board for supporting us on that. It was a big deal, and the staff and faculty don't have a big opportunity to say thank you for that, so I'll say thank you for them. I think there's universal approval of that. Yeah, you can clap, that's okay. So the second thing I'm say is the resolution in support of accreditation that's on the agenda for tonight. That our ACCT folks recommended that. I suspect that that will not be an issue. The board has expressed in every way possible strong support for continued accreditation and doing what it takes to get the college back in good standing. So I look forward to that. And then finally, on the kind of accreditation piece was the in a previous training session, we spent a lot of time doing a detailed analysis of all 9 issues that are coming up for the upcoming visit, and going through and identifying all of those, fixing responsibility, making sure that everyone had an action plan, and going forward with that. And so the board looked at all of those issues very well, very thoroughly, and I think we have a pretty good game plan for going forward. And and I appreciate all the work that the board put into making that work happen. So then I'll get into my formal report. There's a lot going on, so I wrote a lot down. I'm going to try not to read it. But as most of you know, we received a letter from NWCCU on July 7th that gave us 1 more year of show cause, which kind of gave us an extension to really demonstrate where we're at. We've formed a writing team, which the next step that happens is we start to write a report that's due on the 15th of September. The writing team has been meeting for the last couple weeks, twice a week. We just went through it, the draft report today. We have about 15 pages. Most of it is just bullets of stuff that we've done since March 30th, when the last letter was reported, the last report went up. So since March 30th, we've already got about 15 pages of content that shows the progress that we're making towards media accreditation. So that's great work, and we continue to write on that a couple times every week and collect all the data and supporting documents that show what work has been done. So there's a lot of work going on there. We have 2 board members that have participated in that one time, and we hope to have them back for the next couple of events. And then we hope to have a full draft. It's not going to be done, but a full draft out to the board, or a draft out to the full board by September 1st. And if we can put it up on the screen, I don't know if we're ready to do that or not. We one of the things they're going to get ready to put this up, so hopefully that all works. This will be available, and there are copies in the back of the room if you need it. But there have been a lot of questions about the timeline. Do we have 2 years? Do we, when do we have to have things done, and what's the sequence? And so we try to put together a graphic that makes all that clear. I hope it doesn't confuse people more, but the start of it was we went into a warning status in April of 22, and the federal rules require that we're back in good standing within 3 years, which puts it to April 2025. But we can't just wait till that. And that's something, this is where it gets a little ugly and confusing. We have to go to a meeting of the full board of the NWCCU Commission, and they only meet twice a year. They meet in January and June. So if we have to be fully in good standing by April 2025, that means we have to go to the commission meeting in January and get them to say, yep, you're may not be perfect, but you're good enough to go back into good standing, okay? Then back that off, you have to go before the commission, you have to have a visit. So the visit is currently scheduled. We have a mid-cycle review scheduled for the end of October, 1st of November in 2024. 6 weeks before that, we have to submit a report. And the meeting, when they come and visit, is to confirm and talk to people and make sure that what we put in the report is accurate, valid, and that everyone understands it. So that will be due September of 2024. So September 2024 feeds the visit for October, which feeds our ability to go to the meeting in January. There's another opportunity to do that, which would be this spring. If we're close enough, we may be able to present the data. Now, remember, there's another deadline that we have to meet, and that's the July 7th of this year letter said we have a year to get back in to get off of show cause, which means we have to get off show cause by July of 24. The opportunity to do that is going to be at this spring visit where, again, to do that, we have to go to the June meeting, which means we have to prepare for the spring visit, which means we have to prepare a report in early spring. So it gets to be a little bit complicated. Hopefully you can take a look at this graphic and it'll help you understand that. But just remember that to go back into good standing, to come down off of the show cause precipice, we have to have a meeting with the commission, happens in January or June, requires a visit, requires a report, and so there's this whole sequence that lays out. So it's a little bit more complicated. You can't just depend on the April 25 date. You can't depend on the July 24th date. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in the middle. So we're trying to get that up. It'll be up on the web. We've been working with NWCCU to make sure all the language is accurate and correct. I think this last version is really close. So as soon as we get a confirmation from NWCCU that we're exactly right and they're approving the wording, we'll get it up on the web. But there are copies that will be available, I think, in the back of the room. So take a look at that if you're interested. And before I go any further, I do want to note it. Many of you knew Shannon, and Shannon has left NIC and gone to move to Washington. So we have Susie Cura, who is our new board clerk. So Susie, if you raise your hand back there. So I did want to make sure everybody recognized that. Okay, next topic I want to talk about is I call student topics, and I'm going to address recruiting, and some of the public made comments about that. When we first started working this, I got back in March. We first started really digging into our recruiting efforts. It was in April. The data indicated a decline of 22.7% year over year, which is, pretty depressing. When we received the July 7th letter that said we've got another year, we're fully accredited, that really opened the doors for us to what I would say ethically recruit. We didn't want to recruit students in if we were going to lose accreditation, so having another year allowed us to do that kind of recruiting. So by the 10th of July, we formed an ad hoc committee that was really going to look at recruiting as a business model. And recruiting is not something that many colleges are good at, and most community colleges really don't do at all. And so we pulled all these folks together and started looking at what we're doing, how we're doing it as a business process. We said we need to have some advice. So luckily, we are also home to the Small Business Development Center. So we pulled in Bill Young, who is our small business director, and he really provided some very sound advice on how to recruit. So the first thing he said was, instead of looking at how far you are behind by a percent, identify how many students you need to recruit to meet your goal. Okay, simple, but that changes your mindset. Instead of like how bad we are and did we get any better it's actually a number. So with 36 days to go, we identified that we needed to have 1,051 students by opening day in order to be at zero with last year, which would be the first year in about 10 or 11 years that we've had a 0 year. So that was important. So then he said, how many students do you have to recruit every day to meet that goal? Okay, another really cool idea. 29.2 it turns out. I don't know what a 0.2 student looks like, but it really set the mark for us to do recruiting. So I'll kind of cut to the chase and just say that in 36 days, our goal was 1051. We hit 747. So, yeah. And I'll tell you that we have somewhere between 20 and 30 people that show up to our Monday afternoon recruiting meeting. They come with their game face on. They are not offended when the responsibility for a bottleneck or a system that's not working, it's not about the people. The people are doing exactly what we asked them to do, but they say, okay, that's our bottleneck, that's our system, we'll fix it. And they don't they're not offended by it. They're not offended when people say, okay, that's where the bottleneck is. They just get to work, and by the next week, they have figured out what they can do to fix that part of the system. So it's been an incredibly collaborative process that we've gone through to make that happen, and to go not just 747 students, but that equates to 8,975 credits, which is also important because that's how we do our budget. So while we remain 8% below where we wanted to be, we still have 55 days before our census date, which is when our final enrollment numbers are due. But that 8,975 credits, who's counting, because of the mix of the people that from in-state and out-of-state, that we're actually 98%, we've reached 98% of our budgeted tuition revenue for the fall. So that's really the incredible number. Because I'll tell you, the NWCCU, their real concern with falling enrollments, if you read the whole statement, the real concern is not with falling enrollments, but it's the impact that falling enrollment has on tuition. And when you start to have such declining enrollments that it starts to affect your bottom line, then it's very hard for the college to recover. So the fact that we're at 98% and we still have not added the dual credit students and the multiple start dates. We have several programs that have 12-week courses and 8-week courses, and those students haven't even started registering yet. So it is not impossible yet for us to have a 0 year. And I think that's, and we're at 98% already, so it really, we're addressing two things, the falling enrollment and its impact on tuition. I think that is a real testament to the work of those 20 or 30 people that show up every Monday and get the work done. So I think they deserve a round of applause. They're either here or at home. And I met with, we meet all the time, but I talked to Sarah Garcia this morning about an example of that. When she did the budget this year, she budgeted for, again, we budget by credit, so I know it's a little bit weird, but usually one class is 3 credits. So she budgeted for 227 out-of-state credits for fall, okay? We already have 340 out-of-state credits. So that's where those numbers, that's why the budget is, we're at 98% of our budgeted tuition, is because for whatever reason, we got a lot of credits, students signing up for classes that are out of state, which is a huge, huge accomplishment for us because it means we're attracting students from out of state. Okay, next topic on students is scholarships. And it's another issue that NWCCU brought up is the reduced commitment of donors to sponsor scholarships and other gifts to the institution. So this year, an indication of the performance of our foundation, the foundation has provided $1,257,286 to financial aid. The foundation doesn't award scholarships to students. They give the money, a percentage of the money raised to NIC Financial Aid Office, and Financial Aid Office awards the scholarships, not the foundation. That's important. But this is a record year. So that's a huge, huge progress from where we were a year ago, and it shows a commitment by the community to continue supporting NIC and NIC students through donations to the foundation, which then allows the foundation to make that big $1,257,286 in financial aid to our students. That's an annual record. Okay, another, this affects students, but it's a new program. It was announced, there was a press release that went out, but we have been, since I got here, I've been working with Lewis and Clark and University of Idaho to create some more advanced, they're generally called 2+2 programs, but in our case, they're actually, we figured out some ways of doing it, so maybe 2+1. And that is particularly starting with our health sciences, health professions. Our one example, and I learned about this when I was going through the accreditation with the dental hygiene folks. And the head of our dental hygiene program said, for one more semester, maybe two, our students could earn a bachelor's degree after they finish our program. So there's usually 2 years of prerequisites that the students take, and then 2 years of very intense coursework in the dental hygiene program. So they've done about 4 years. There's just one, depending on what courses they took or what they were able to transfer in, 1 or 2 additional semesters from LC will give them a bachelor's degree. So we'll be one of the first institutions, maybe in the country, that is able to, through working with LCSC, be able to offer $20,000 degrees, bachelor's degrees, to our students in our community. So a 4-year degree, face-to-face, for under $20K. That's a huge benefit for our community and for our students. And we have a couple more queued up that I'm not at liberty to talk about yet, but the first one starts with health professions with a concentration in dental hygiene. We hope to grow that to all health professions. So all, I think it was 6 or 8 of the accredited health professions that will all ultimately be able to get a bachelor's degree for under $20K. Next topic is grants and external funding. We have the Center for New Directions. Many of you that were here last time or the meeting before that, and you heard from Louisa Rogers, and she brought in a bunch of moms that had anywhere from 2 to 6 kids. She received an award from the United Way of North Idaho of $40,000 to provide scholarships for for childcare, so that people with parents with kids that want to further their education we can now pay for those that childcare so that parents can go to school. It's a huge benefit for, you saw a lot of single moms that night, but there are also single dads and even married couples that struggle to get back into the education system because of childcare. So that's a huge win for us. There's been a couple of articles out there about this new Inland Northwest Tech Hub that there are 10 higher ed institutions. They asked us to participate because we're close. It's going to be based out of Gonzaga. So the Gonzaga's president's office called and asked if we would participate. Yes, what was kind of my answer. And so it's a regional tech hub that would involve all the higher ed in our area. Plus, there's a huge kind of under the radar aerospace tech industry here that this is designed to expand on. And NIC used to have, before I got here, they had an aerospace program. I don't know why really it went away, but this is a potential opportunity for us to get that restarted in collaboration with these 9 other institutions and industry that has grown up in the area since then. So that's a really cool opportunity for us. The phase 1 of the grant is $500,000 for everything. So the chance that we're going to get any money out of that is really small. Get a couple $1,000s to maybe redesign a course or something like that. But if you have to be selected for phase 1 in order to participate in phase 2. Phase 2 is $65 million per institution, per program. So we wouldn't get all of that. It would, Gonzaga's lead, so they're going to get the bulk of it. But that's a huge opportunity for us to grow programs here at North Idaho College, working with some elite regional institutions. Again, back on childcare, there's a program called C Campus, and we submitted a $1.4 million grant to the U.S. Department of Education for child care access and we won't know for a couple months if we get that or not, but we put together a pretty strong grant for that would again help us expand childcare opportunities so that more parents can attend higher ed. And then we submitted a total package of $1.3 million for CTE equipment to the Idaho Department of Career and Technical Education. And that's for equipment and support stuff, everything from the law enforcement, cybersecurity, InfoSec administration, graphic design, dental hygiene, radiography technology, automotive technology, health professions, nursing, and nursing simulator. So across the board, lots of really cool programs. If each one of those is really a separate grant, and so those are funded individually, and we had to make sure that we could get the item, pay for it, and get it installed by March of next year before we could submit. So that's total package 1.3 million. A lot of board members. So next topic: vaccine status. These are the vaccine updates for our health professions. Usually have to go out in the field and do clinical work in the hospitals and other health care providers. And during COVID, many of them locked down their access so that our students had to either get vaccinated or they couldn't participate. And so that's been a big issue. It's a big issue for North Idaho, big issue for some of our trustees. And so we've been working really hard to address those and open up those facilities. So really good news tonight is that Providence Healthcare, which includes Sacred Heart, Holy Family, St. Luke's Rehab Hospital, have all lifted their requirements for COVID vaccination. On top of that, we have developed a process for medical exemptions, religious exemptions, so that students can attend clinicals at the North Idaho Advanced Care Hospital and the Rehab Hospital Northwest, RNH, in Post Falls, because they have not changed their policy, but they have now allowed us to offer exemptions. So we've developed that process, it's in place, and so the students now in that nursing program will be able to, if they have objections to getting vaccinated, they'll be able to participate and go to those clinics. It's not 100%. There's still things like with the Veterans Administration, because of federal law, that still has some restrictions in place. But this is a much different picture than it was when Trustee McKenzie asked me to look into it. As I said, by the end of the summer, I think a lot of these will be lifted, and they have been. So that's really good news for many of our students who did not want to participate in the vaccination. Another issue that the board and I think everyone on campus is very interested in is campus security. And I'm going to say Monday of this week, I got a letter of commitment from the Office of School Safety and Security. They're going to perform a free comprehensive security audit, and they have committed to get that done by October. So so they'll conduct the audit, prepare it, come on campus, talk to people, coordinate with everybody on campus that participates in security, and then have the final written report to us by November 1st. It saves us a lot of money rather than contracting with somebody to come in and do that work. This agency will do it for free. And if we find any gaps in the product that they provide, then we'll go out and contract for that gap. So just to have that gap done as opposed to paying somebody to do the entire thing. And I would like to, is Josh in the room? Stuart, can you grab Josh? Is he out there? So many of you have met Officer Gus Wessel over the years. He's been here, I don't know how long, certainly longer than I've been here. Gus has been our SRO, great guy for quite a while. And so the students know him, the faculty know him. He left this summer to take a job, promotion and a job out on the West Coast, I think in Puyallup, but I'm not 100% sure. And so we have a new SRO on staff. He has been here many times to supplement Gus during board meetings when additional security was required. So I just wanted to, hopefully we can get him in the room and let everybody see who he is. When you see him, you'll recognize him. His name's Josh Renault, great guy, and he has been doing SRO work for quite a while, so he's very familiar with it. And Josh and Stuart are going to conduct security training for, there he is. Say hi, Josh. I just want to make sure everybody had a face with a name, so thanks for coming in. I appreciate, and I think everybody appreciates the work and the commitment of the Coeur d'Alene Police Department in helping us with the SRO staffing. So thank you very much. But Officer Renault and our Chief Security, Stuart Wagner, are going to be conducting security training across campus. There'll be a campus-wide session tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And then they will be going around to each of the buildings and working with building coordinators and employees in those buildings to help them understand what all the security is, what's provided, and how to access security if there's something needed. So that's going to happen regardless of the security audit that we're going to have. And we just want to make sure everybody knows our security folks and is aware of all that stuff. So that's addressing campus security. And then things that are happening on campus. August 10th, we celebrated our 90th anniversary, and it was a really nice celebration. I'd like to thank Trustee McKenzie for showing up to that. It was a really nice, I think we probably had about 500 people here, lots of community members. I got to hear great stories of my grandparents met here, my parents met here. And so I wouldn't be here, literally wouldn't be here if it wasn't for NIC, those kinds of stories. So it was a really heartwarming event that was well attended by community, alumni, and students. Last week was Convocation Week, so it's kind of a welcome back for our faculty. And we had a picnic sponsored by STCU, one of our longtime and dedicated sponsors. We're midway through, as you heard Michael talk about, our week of welcome. And so the students coming back to campus, again, get T-shirts. You saw, I think, if you saw people wearing the red shirts with the 90th anniversary logo on the front, those were all sponsored, again, by STCU. So you saw women's volleyball, but our men's and women's soccer is also very active. They both won yesterday. The women's score was 3-0. Men's score was 2-1. I heard that the women won again today. The men did not, but they had a great tournament out in in Western Washington. More news on the athletic front. Coach Booth, our now second-year wrestling program coach, was asked to take over the Spokane Open Wrestling Tournament. I haven't ever attended it, but I'm told it is a huge deal for the Northwest and really helped reignite wrestling in the Pacific Northwest. It's been going on for a number of years. The guy that ran that tournament is retiring, and he specifically came to NIC and asked Coach Booth to take that tournament over and run it. Even though it's in Spokane and they got other community colleges in Spokane, they came to NIC because we have such a strong history of wrestling. So it's great publicity for NIC and maybe in particular our NIC wrestling community. Tony Norris is not here tonight. Tony Norris is the new president of our Athletic Booster Club. And their first big event is going to be on September 7th, which is a Booster Club cruise sponsored by the Hagedorn Corporation. There's going to be more available up. Sean Noel will get that up on the NIC Athletics website. But we are really working hard to rebuild our Booster Club in light of our move to NJCAA and our return to the national stage for competition. So if any of you are inclined towards athletics, I ask for your support and show up at the Booster Club cruise on the 7th. So general topics, I'll rush through the rest of this. The board has asked me to provide a report on nonprofit memberships. I'll have that ready for the September board. Some of you may be aware, but the National Student Clearinghouse had a third party that works with them. National Student Clearinghouse moves all kinds of student data around, and they had a third party that got their data was compromised. So it had nothing to do with anything we did, nothing that the clearinghouse did, but a third party that was responsible for moving the data was breached. And they notified us, it was a big deal, and then they finally sent us the data on how many students were affected, and we had one student that was affected. So that was great. Other colleges, and it's nothing to do with us, but the other colleges and universities had like the whole program, even employees affected. So it was great news for us. over the past couple weeks, over the summer, we've had several audits of our Title IV financial aid and Pell Grants. And I'll just to tell you, our financial aid office has done a remarkable job with balancing all that. There's so many things that go into Pell Grants and Title IV financial student aid that it is rare that you're balanced down to a penny at the end of the year. And so there was an audit on one part and another audit on a second part that just finished that looks at disbursements. And we were down to the penny on wait for it, $4,332,979.84, down to the penny. And finally, my last point is that, and you've heard a lot about the work that's being done by the policy committee of the board, but even though many of the faculty were gone over the summer, we have about 15 policies that have been reviewed that are queued up and ready to go, either to Senate for review or for final, and we'll be presenting some of those starting in September. So they've been working, even though they were not on contract. They've been doing a great job getting everything queued up so that we have the important policies up to date and ready to go for the work of the college. Trustee McKenzie, that concludes my president's report.
Thank you. Is there any trustees with questions for President Swain? Hearing none, we can always go back. Thank you for your presentation. We're moving on to the consent agenda, tab 1, consisting of meeting minutes for June 7th, 2023, second reading of Board Policy 20102, which is responsibilities, duties, and standards of good practice. As chair, I'm going to request a board member to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
I have a question.
Trustee Wagner.
Right. On the second reading, I have a question, actually. I think I found something that needs to be changed.
Uh-oh.
If it's a minor change, I think we could do that and then adopt it with that change.
Right.
Let's hear it. What do you have? You're making me...
Should we make the motion first and then have the, well, no, it's consent agenda. We don't have
Yeah, it's
discussion.
consent agenda.
Yeah.
No discussion.
We can take that off the
Oh, you better ask the question first.
You know, we're going to have an hour and a half meeting. We're going to have a 2-hour meeting now. That's fine. We shall take off the Board Policy 20102 from the consent agenda.
And do we still get to?
We'll pass the minutes.
Yeah, we'll pull it out, pass the minutes, and then address the...
Okay.
Yeah. Will you find the policy in there that he's talking about?
It's tab
Yeah.
B.
I know, but I got it stacked. Okay, so we are pulling off the second reading. So can I have a motion to approve the amended consent agenda, which is really just the meeting minutes from June 7th? Somebody say so moved. Help me out.
So moved.
Thank you. Trustee Wagner, you moved. Do I have a second?
I second.
Trustee
Zimmerman.
Zimmerman, thank you. I didn't get it wrong. It just took a little while. Trustee Zimmerman, thank you. And let's call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the consent agenda has been approved. Moving to Board Policy 20102, Trustee Wagner.
I have a question under responsibilities, section A. Statutory responsibilities, I think it's supposed to be board trustee as a liaison of the board of directors, not as a member. Is that correct, or am I wrong? Can you hear me? No, okay, let me say it again. For A1, select the board
liaison.
trustee as a liaison of the board of directors of the North Idaho College Foundation, not a member of
Yeah.
the board of directors.
Correct.
Correct.
So you scratch a member and change liaison.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's actually,
Okay.
my understanding, it's a legal issue.
Mike, where are you looking at that? Is that in the green? Under A?
Green right here.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Trustee
with this wording change that you're proposing, I'm hearing that you want to make a motion to approve 20102 with that minor change. If you're making that motion, please say so moved.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
Trustee Zimmerman, thank you. A lot better that time. The motion before the board is to approve 20102 with a minor change that Trustee Wagner has defined. If the hearing discussion, I don't see any for it. We're going to call it the vote. All those in favor of approving this policy, say aye.
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 I hear 4 votes for aye. The policy has been passed. Thank you. Moving to, so
We're going to jump to 3.
tab 3, resolution on accreditation. So would a fellow board member make a motion for the NIC Board of Trustees to acknowledge receipt of the July 7th, 2023 letter from the NWCCU, Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities, and resolve to return to good standing and be in full compliance with standards and eligibility requirements noted in that letter in order to maintain accreditation? If someone makes that motion, please say so moved.
So moved.
Trustee Zimmerman, thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Trustee Corkle, thank you. Any fellow trustees? One last look at it. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing 4 ayes, the chair votes aye, and the day is the 23rd to fill out, and we'll get some
And
signatures
if I
afterwards.
could just ask everyone to stop by and see Susie after the meeting and sign, so we have the signed copy, we can submit that with the packet for
Sounds good.
NWCCU.
All fellow trustees hear that, and you might be able to drop off your self-evaluation when you do that as well, if you choose to opt in. Moving to tab 4, compliance with open meeting law 74201. So just to remind everyone, at the beginning of this meeting, there was a motion to amend the agenda, just because how today's went and other things. There was a good faith effort, but it was required. And so the next agenda is, instead of board policy subcommittee report on those policies, it's compliance with open meeting law 74201. And as chair, I'm going to make would a board member please make a motion to move tab 4 materials to a future open meeting to avoid a violation of open meeting rules? And is any trustee willing to make that request?
So moved.
Or motion, sorry. So moved. Thank you. Trustee Zimmerman has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Wagner has made that. Just to save on time, we'll, basically what we're doing is we're scheduling a larger subcommittee to talk about these specific policies. I was the one who provided input, and we shall meet and discuss that. I think we're aiming for next week, so we're going into discussion. I'm on travel Wednesday. So we'll find a time. Maybe, well, I'm on a plane Wednesday, actually, all day. So anyway, the motion before the board is to move tab 4 materials to a future open meeting to avoid violation of open meeting rules. And all those in favor of doing this, say aye.
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 Trustee Corkle, is that a aye? Okay, 4 votes for aye. The motion passes. And I think we have a general consensus about board members to schedule one for next week, hopefully the end of next week, if people can do that. And I think the 2 main ones that are, they're subcommittee experts, is Trustee Wagner and Trustee Zimmerman, and I are definitely interested in this. If my fellow trustee Banducci and Corkle, you'll get a copy of the board packets, but if you guys wanted to not be there.
There's no requirement to be there.
There's no requirement to be there. Okay. So you'll see the policy, and if you're happy with how it comes out with the board packet, you're welcome to enjoy your life. Or you're welcome there to vote, and your input's definitely desired. So saying that, we've all been working a lot of hours on this Board of Trustees. President's Goals, tab 5, President Swain.
Yeah, so there were several adjustments that were made. We had a really productive meeting with our ACT consultants and Chair McKenzie and Trustee Wagner went through those, and what you see before you is a mutually agreed upon set of goals that will be part of the president's evaluation and really drive a lot of the work of the college for the coming year. So I'm in favor of having these approved, subject to the board's input.
All right, thank you. Yes, and a lot of goals, ambitious, and we have mutual agreement and mutual values for all towards student success and achieving best practices. So someone, fellow trustee, make a motion to approve the proposed president's goals as written here.
I'll do that. I'd like
Trustee
to make
Wagner.
a motion to approve the president's goals.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Corkle, thank you very much. Hearing no hands, seeing no hands for discussion, we're going to go straight for the vote. All those in favor of approving these goals, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and the chair votes aye. We have unanimous consent for these approved goals. Good luck.
Perfect.
Rooting for your success. Okay. Okay. These are cool. Next agenda topic.
SBOE.
SBOE, yes. So the NIC has submitted for the, it's a 12.1 or 12 million to the legislature. And I think, let's see, I had some motions. If you give me a second. I put them in an email. I think it would be good to basically, and we've talked about this before, there's no surprises here, to do a workshop on this specific topic to get fellow legislatures on board with it and exposed to the idea before they see it in just a budget item so they can speak more to it and basically rally support to it. So we get all stakeholder buy-in, everything that you're already doing, I'm sure, because I know who is the I don't know.
So Captain Jeremy Heil was he used to be Lieutenant Heil, led the training program at the police officer training out at in Post Falls, and when I met him, this was his big. He said, "We really need this," and so since then, I think the entire law enforcement community has gotten behind this, and we have the land available. The state kind of owes us. They haven't provided any funding.
It's been a long time since the state has given NIC.
So supporting a law enforcement initiative on land that we already own seemed just like a no-brainer, and it would draw law enforcement from western Montana, eastern Idaho, or eastern Washington, all the way down to Nez Perce County. So it would be a huge draw for us.
And I think
so we'll get those guys in and talk about it, and
yeah.
I think that's.
So I did prepare a motion, and I'd like the board to basically direct, try and get the community behind this idea, and get us more information about this idea. Trustee Banducci.
Just for everybody's edification, maybe just a quick synopsis of what we're doing with the money. We've talked about law enforcement, so people are thinking law enforcement.
We're not,
we have property.
actually, I made a promise that we're not going to get deep into a presentation. I just want, that's what we're going to have at a workshop. And I want the whole community basically to be aware and
I can tell the
if you're willing.
Absolutely. The 30 second, because I know.
Yeah, so the big thing that they have a problem with is that they call it EVOC training, evasive driving stuff. So how do you do a pursuit safely? And so there's no course. They have to shut down the airport and use the airport, which is one straight line. It's not realistic. And so building a really nice driving course, which is actually not all that expensive, and an indoor pistol range, and then there's a wet skid lab, a skid surface. So it would be a premier facility that would provide incredible training, not just for law enforcement, but also for things like snowplow. and our CDL drivers to be able to practice driving before they have to go out on the road. So it's a driving course, a pistol range, and a skid pad. And really the police and sheriff's office have been integral in telling us what they need, what they want, and working with the architect to kind of draw it all out, just to make, this is a very preliminary plan, but this is really the only capital project that we could come up with as a, we were really on a short notice to do this, but that's what it is.
And that's all I was looking for, just a
Yep.
quick overview, because I was aware of what you said,
Thank
but a lot of the audience
I
may not
think
be.
as a board, we have an opportunity basically to show alignment. While this kind of did catch me personally, like kind of by surprise, this 12 million request to the legislature, I think a lot of good things are happening, not necessarily that we're aware of, and we can, by having this workshop that we've kind of already agreed to basically trustees and the whole community and those who support this idea can show up and basically express their support. And so I'm hoping we can, may I have trustees have a motion to request a workshop regarding this proposal to the SBOE and legislature. So the motion, if you just say so move, and I'll help you.
So moved.
So moved. Trustee Wagner, thank you, sir. So your motion is to direct the president to, in the near term, host, publicize, and explain the request to the community for what's being submitted to the SBOE. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Corkle, thank you. All those, I think we've talked about it enough. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I hear 4 ayes. The motion passes. Okay, and then I have one more motion that I was hoping, I think it's best if we direct the president to develop like a policy for these types of requests to the SBOE and legislature regarding like the information flow regarding them. So my motion, if someone chooses to make this, please say so moved, is to direct the president to specifically to develop a policy regarding these types of requests and the information flow regarding them. So if anyone has willing to make that motion, please say so moved.
I'll say so moved.
Trustee Banducci, thank you much. Is there a second? Okay, I'm gonna actually second it, so we go to discussion. I think it's best that we do, and I see it does incorporate a policy, because I know last year, it kind of was, kind of caught some trustees by surprise at the legislature, and honestly, this year kind of, again, caught by surprise. And I think the information flow, just regarding this request and kind of the details that the trustees kind of, that they should be made aware of before is actually submitted to the SBOE, just to make sure there's full alignment with trustees' buy-in before so much work gets done at other external agencies. So that's why I think there's justification for this type of policy. Then again, we're not approving a policy. We're basically directing the president to develop a policy that to do that. Trustee Wagner.
Is that a college policy or is that a board policy?
Well, I think I don't think this motion would limit the president from incorporating it into whether the communication flow in the board governance or if he wants it external to outside of the board governance. But it does relate to information flow, or it could, I'll leave it to him.
Let's take a look at it, and we can decide at our next meeting how that's going to flow.
Because that was one of the things that I had talked about doing in the future. And I had thought that it was board, but it interfaces between the two, right?
Yeah, so the challenge is that the state process, the first piece is pretty preliminary. So what has been asked for, the steps that we've taken now is really just, give us your ideas what you might spend your money on. And so that's all this is. So the real official request actually goes to DPW, and we haven't done that yet. So maybe a lot of this is a workshop that we can talk about the process and how these things go forward, because it's a surprise, but this is not there's not a commitment to do the project yet, and so let me maybe come back at a workshop and talk about it, and then we can decide whether it really requires a policy. But it could be part of our budget process for capital projects that go forward, and that might be a good way to put it.
We've talked about also needing a process or a policy, to some extent, requesting a policy for budgeting. And it's this type of thing. We need to know what the steps are. We need to know where we are in the steps. The board needs to know. And we're not really trying to define the steps. We're just trying to say.
Make sure everybody
It's
understands.
a communication item, so we're all on the same.
I kind of envision like this policy kind of pulling these type of capital projects out of a larger master plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of formally detailing that, so.
So
It's not, so, anyway. Trustee Banducci.
I would think, depending on how we decide to do this structurally, it's still going to have to fall into the category of no surprises.
Right.
Okay? I don't want to, I'd rather not have somebody else tell me about something that we're doing. I don't want to read about it in the paper. I don't like to get a text.
Right.
You know.
Understood.
So, there's nothing worse than being out of town and coming back and someone saying, "Did you see the article in today's press?" And you go, "What?" You know, those aren't helpful.
Sometimes we don't realize that they're going to be in the press. But, you know, they're asking for input, and it's not really, doesn't really rise to that level, and sometimes it just gets picked up, and so, but point made, I get it.
What steps do you want to take then to get to that? We all agree.
Let's meet, and we can talk as part of the subcommittee and figure out what the.
We're meeting next week. Shall we put
Right.
it on the agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
let's do that.
And then come up with a plan to.
Correct.
What needs to be done.
Yep.
Okay, there is a motion before the board. Do we want to rescind those motions or pass this motion and then move forward?
Why don't I withdraw my motion with the understanding that this is going to be addressed at the workshop next week?
Perfect. I think that's good.
Okay.
And
Because I made the original motion, so, sorry, Mike.
Well,
I'll withdraw
I don't think
I withdraw my motion if you'll withdraw your second.
the information is maybe addressed at the workshop, and it may not, no guarantee it's gonna be next week. It's near term, whenever you're ready.
How about I just withdraw it with the idea it's going to be talked about,
Correct.
addressed?
All right.
Is that
The
satisfactory?
motion,
It accomplishes the work. We don't need a vote.
the motion was, okay, and we can fully withdraw. I'm fine with that. Just so you know, the motion was to, targeted towards getting a policy.
Right.
Okay.
So just, we're trying to leave this college, so,
What would you like?
better than when we found it. Personally, I would prefer a motion pass, that we get a policy, targeted towards improving this information flow.
But it may be a policy that comes as a board policy, which then it's not something I originate. So that's, I think that's what Mike is trying to
Yeah,
clarify.
that's
is
what I'm
that,
trying to get clear.
Chair, may I weigh in on this?
Yes, trustee.
Thank you. I think it's smart to take it to the committee and talk about it, to where does it actually fit best, and is there already a place that we have in policy to put it in, rather than creating another new policy? I think it's good to have that conversation, and I think that the subcommittee is a suitable place for that to happen.
Okay. Then motions are rescinded. We're moving forward. Trustee
I
Wagner.
want to make one brief comment. My background is 16 years updating businesses, and that's what's happening here. Dr. Swain, President Swain calls me a business process expert, and I am. There's a lot of processes, et cetera, that everybody that's dealing with finances, et cetera, here knows how to do, but the board doesn't necessarily understand, and those types of things are being worked on. So there's back and forth, and we have to sometimes back up a little bit. But as we're going through, we're actually strengthening all the processes that are being used to run the college, and that's really good.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Last final hands raised. Moving to the next informational items. Human resources, Dr. Swain.
well, so before we start on that, I just want to kind of preface this by saying that when I got here and we started doing this, I kind of followed what was, done before me, and there were no recurring reports. And so with the help of the ACCT consultants, they identified that as an issue, and so we sat down and figured out what are the recurring reports that the board needs in order to do board level business. And so what you're going to see over this upcoming year are our best shot at the not just the topics, but also the content within them that we think that the board needs in order to make informed decisions and act with that strategic level for the board. And so we're going to start with a human resource update. Karen Hubbard is our Director of Human Resources. She has started off giving this report to the President's Cabinet. She's kind of refined it and polished it to give to the board to take it to a more strategic level. But you're going to start to see these, and so as you see them, if there's additional information you would want to see or it's too much, we'll work on that. Oftentimes you're going to find, if you recall back to Vicki Isaacson's first presentation on workforce training, it was a long report, went about 20 minutes. Our goal is to get these to 7, but the first time you hear them, there's a lot of details that you need. So the first time you see the report, it might be 10 minutes or 12 minutes. But from then on, the incremental reports will get them down to under 7. That's our goal. So as you see this tonight, might run a little longer than 7, but ultimately that's our goal, and then to provide you incremental updates. So please give your attention to Karen Hubbard, who is going to present to you on the human resources.
Thank you, President Swain. Good evening, Chair McKenzie, trustees. I'm here to provide an update on human resources, looking back at, starting with an overview and looking back at FY23, the year that we just completed in June. We'll talk about the state of the workforce, including our headcount, recruiting and hiring, turnover, and we'll go into a few aspects of employee retention, our efforts in that area, and then we'll wrap up with our focus for FY24. So human resources is a team of 7. There's 7 of us, and I'm thrilled to have the privilege to lead this fantastic group of professionals. They've been with the college for a long time. They've got a lot of experience, deep experience in all the different areas of human resources. And together we work to provide professional assistance to recruit, retain, and engage our most valuable asset. You've heard a lot about them tonight, our employees. We're dedicated to clear communication, progressive thinking, and resourceful solutions in support of the mission of NIC. We enjoy supporting the fantastic group of employees that make up the NIC team, and they are the folks that make the student success happen. So they are the people changing lives of NIC students. When we look at our headcount, I thought it might be helpful to compare this year's headcount, which officially went in, or this past year, the year that we just completed, went in at 847, and to look at how that's changed from 5 years ago to give you some perspective, and you can kind of see in the different groups what the change has been, but overall we're down about 18% from where we were. And these are the official numbers that go into iPads. We report them in November of every year, as all higher education institutions do. From a recruiting and hiring standpoint, we've been extremely busy. We'll talk about turnover just after this, but we posted 143 positions, full-time, benefit-eligible positions just this past year. We filled 129 of those, and we're pretty proud of that. You can see that the number of applicants per job has decreased significantly over the last 3 years. It's been stable, really. Both our hiring activity and the applicants, average applicants per job, have been stable over the last 2 years, but the last 2 years are significantly higher than previous years. We're looking at a 3-year picture here because we adopted a new applicant tracking system 3 years ago, and so this is the data where we can provide really consistent data. In addition to those full-time positions, we have posted and recruited for 45 additional part-time positions this year. And this isn't, I just want to make the comment that the recruiting and hiring is administered and facilitated by the Human Resources Office, but certainly requires a lot of time, energy, and effort from folks across the college because we do these searches with committees, and so it takes it takes some teamwork for each one of these. Looking at employee turnover, again, it's been stable over the last couple years. This year, we were happy not to exceed by too much the year prior, which was significantly higher than the years before that. So we're really hopeful that with some of our retention efforts, that this next year we'll be able to reduce the number of our turnover rate and the number of employees that choose to depart the college.
We think that the raise may have a very positive impact because it makes us way more competitive than we were previously. So we'll have to see, this time next year, but we think
Absolutely.
that'll make us.
It's hard to tell over the last 11 years that I've been on the board, but it seems like we've had a lot of retirements the last year or two. Does it seem like statistically were the retirements a little higher percentage, or was there a higher number of retirements? It seemed like we have a mature group here at this college. A lot of people have been here 20, 30 years, and we do the awards. We did it, at the graduation breakfast in the morning. And we have a lot of people that have been here a while, and there's a bit of gray hair.
Yep.
So it
It's
seems like we're aging out a little bit.
We do have a number of retirements. I think they've increased this year. I'm not sure that that's been super significant or a real significant part of this. I'd be happy to provide that information if you want to break down of retirements to the president and for the board, if that's your desire.
I was just curious. Just seemed like in the Nick Now, come to somebody's retirement party, come to somebody's retirement, somebody's going away.
We have certainly had a lot of retirement parties in the last recent months, I'll say. And we like to make a celebration, out of those. We have a lot of people who've been with the college for many, many years, and so those are celebrations. So about a year ago, we implemented a new exit survey tool, and we engaged with a third party who has a survey tool that we use, and it provides statistically validated questions, and employees respond to this anonymously. It's also a voluntary survey, and so we've heard from about 65 benefits eligible employees over the last year, and this is what they're telling us in terms of those who've left for another job, that they're leaving primarily, the number one reason is for the question is phrased or the response as payer benefits. We know that is not benefits in the vast majority of cases, but in fact it's compensation. We know that because employees tell us that, and they tell managers the same thing. They also leave comments in this survey that indicate the same. So that's the top reason that employees are leaving. Absolutely, to President Swain's point, the salary increase was really significant, and we anticipate that will really help us going forward. That was a big step in the right direction, and I think the HR team and all of our employees certainly appreciate that. There are a few other reasons that people leave, and so we had the next three tied for second place, if you will, in terms of the second most frequent reason that people leave. So either they're leaving for career growth, which is what we expect, people to move up and move on, as they do from every organization. But also they're leaving because of work-life balance issues, and they're leaving because of company reputation. And again, when we go back to the comments that these departing employees are leaving in this survey, they're telling us that for many of them, their reasons relate to the accreditation risk and concern and the governance concerns related to that. So, of course, as you would imagine, retention is a huge focus and where we spend a lot of our time, energy and effort, and plan to over the next year as well. The 8% salary budget increase we spoke to, that came across as a 6% structure increase and a step. This is for our benefit eligible employees. So all of our salary structures increased by 6%. and then our benefit-eligible employees received their annual step. But we know that we need to do more in terms of compensation, and so it's time, in light of the significant market movement, inflation, cost of living, cost of housing, all of those pressures on compensation for employers across the area, across the country, that it's time to do an updated salary study to go out to the market and see how we compare, find out what that gap is, and see what we can do to close the margins. So we plan to do that this year, and we'll look forward to bringing those results to the board in time to inform next year's budget planning. Good news on the benefits and wellness front this year. I think Sarah talked about this when she brought you the budget, that we had a 0% increase in medical insurance premiums. We were really pleased to see that. And what both our broker, our health insurance broker, and our health insurance provider tell us is that those low claims that led to that 0% increase are likely a result of our long-standing, robust wellness program and our wellness focus. And so we work to improve those efforts in that program every year. We'll continue to do that and integrate that into our culture for our employees. Other things that have really helped us in FY23 in terms of employee retention are internal promotions. So we talked about the number of positions that we posted. Many of those we filled with internal candidates. And as a reminder, our internal candidates compete with external candidates. This is laid out in our policy noted here. And so they often, even though they're considered in the same way, they often come out as top candidates. And so this is a win-win, both for the employee and for the college. The employee's getting career growth, promotional opportunity, and the compensation that comes with that opportunity. And the college, particularly in years where turnover is so high, importantly, the college is retaining that institutional knowledge. And so, so that's been a real positive in terms of retention. We've worked to make the professional development opportunities that we have more accessible and to create more of them. Again, we've been improving our focus every year we do on wellness program and wellness opportunities. We really are trying to weave that into the fabric of our culture, and flexibility is a big part of that. We promoted alternate work schedules, and we'll continue to do that, encourage supervisors to be flexible and help their employees balance their work and their life. Contracts also were issued as early as possible following the June board meeting. This was extremely important this year to our employees who were telling us that they're feeling very anxious about their ongoing employment in light of the concerns about accreditation. And at that time in June, we weren't certain, what we were going to hear back from the commission. So we got those out as early as possible and to help our employees feel more secure. Other things that we do related to employee retention really are around engagement and building community, fostering relationships, not just within a department and within a small team, but across the larger team at NIC. And these are some of the sort of fun events that we do for employees. You can see a couple pictures from the most recent one that we had, a little ice cream social in the Student Wellness and Recreation Center. But we do a number of other events to bring employees together, to establish relationships and connections across the college, to have a little fun and have a little break. And you can see it's all smiles. They're really good times and now have become, I would say, a tradition. For FY24, our focus will be on employee retention and continuing the types of efforts that I just described that we made last year. We'll also be continuing to bring the board policy updates. We are continuing to work on policies. We brought a number of those to you over the past couple years related to human resource areas, employment, and we'll continue to do that. In fact, we have a number of those in the queue for the Senate, so I believe they'll be working on those, and as soon as they get through them, they'll be coming your way. We'll also be partnering, of course, with strategic planning efforts across the college and participating in that process. And that's all I have for you tonight. I'm happy to stand for any questions if you have them.
Fellow trustees, I hear no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Workforce trainings, Dr. Swain.
So Vicki Isaacson's going to come up, but we also have are you going to introduce him? So I'll not introduce him, but we've got a really new, a great hire, and I'll turn it over to Vicki to introduce them.
Hey, Chair McKenzie, trustees, President Swain, faculty, staff, and members of the community. Hi, I'm Vicki Isaacson, the Dean of Instruction for Workforce Education. You may remember that I just presented information about the Workforce Training Center in May, but you can expect future reports given on an annual basis in August to get us on this recurring report schedule. I'll make this very brief to just share with you how our fiscal year ended and provide a more thorough report again next August. I would first like to introduce my replacement at the Workforce Training Center, our new Executive Director of Workforce and Economic Development, Colby Matilla.
And for anybody that's been to the K-Tech High School, you may recognize him as the former principal. So he was a great local hire for us, and has been helping out in many areas. Yep.
Colby and I worked together on the board for 4 years. How did Nilsson and those guys let you go? I figured they'd. I was gonna say, I'm surprised they didn't tie you to the desk. Oh man, well, welcome aboard. You guys got a good one. Enjoyed working with Colby over the years.
We agree. Colby was the director at K-Tech for 7 years, and has a long history of working with employers, building programs and serving our community. I've had the opportunity to work with him in some capacity over the last 13 years, so I'm excited to continue to work with Colby in this new role. He'll be giving this report next August. So just to show you how we wrapped up fiscal year 23, the incredible workforce training staff and instructors delivered over 475 classes, had 6,684 enrollments with a completion rate of over 87%, and worked with over 300 businesses. They did this with 24 full-time and 6 part-time staff and over 130 part-time instructors. Each of our revenue-generating departments saw an increase in both enrollments and revenue. I understand that our enrollments in our HVAC, plumbing, and electrical are going to see another record year. They're enrolling right now, so we're excited that we may have up to 800 students in those 3 programs alone. Our revenue for last fiscal year was over $3.1 million, which was a 21% increase from the previous year. Enrollments increased by 13% year over year to 6,684, as I previously mentioned. Our quality scores were an average of 97%, and this score is compiled from student feedback on all courses. This was a record year for the Workforce Training Center. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That's student-rated quality scores are mighty high. Yep. It's pretty good.
Great program. They do wonderful work.
So Vicki, are you now one of my statistics in the retirement column?
No.
She's one of the internal hire column.
What are you going to be doing? Are you leaving NIC or going to a different in a different capacity with us, or?
I'm in a different capacity, so I'm the Dean of Workforce Education, so I am overseeing the CTE programs, the trade and industry programs at Parker Technical Center, as well as our career and technical professional and workforce training.
Well, that's almost funny then. So Colby goes from there over to there, and you're going from there over to there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, across the parking lot. But
across the parking lot, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But we're expecting her to have the same kind of impact that she had at Workforce Training Center at Parker in terms of getting that program enrollments up as well.
So you're basically taking over where Doug Anderson's been the interim?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Doug did retire.
Yeah, he's in that column.
He's in that column.
That's
Thank you
that's
very
too bad. He's a real loss. He did a great job. I
Yes,
mean,
he did.
He was a real asset out there.
All right, no more comments from trustees. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Dr. Swain, athletic conference update.
Back in June, when we talked about the transitioning athletic conferences, I said we would come back and present some of an update. This will be ongoing as we learn more, gain more, and do more. I'll say we had a really productive meeting with Chair McKenzie and Todd Banducci on Friday to talk about some of the concerns. And I think we've addressed many of them, maybe not all, but we are working diligently with this team. We meet weekly and really try to work through all the details so that this is a very smooth, planned, and well-executed transition. So Sean's going to give you an update where we are now, and this will be an ongoing discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you. Chair McKenzie, trustees.
Welcome.
President Swain, update on athletics and where we are in particular to our conference update. So I'll start out with a brief timeline just to kind of bring everybody up to speed. June 7th, board authorized a transfer from the NWAC, Northwest Athletic Conference, to the NJCAA, National Junior College Athletic Association, and hopefully the Scenic West Athletic Conference by the fall of 2024. On June 26th, North Idaho College and the NWAC signed an MOU regarding this transition. On the 28th of June, NIC and the NWAC sent out a joint press release regarding the transition, and I'll get into a little bit more detail in a later slide on that. In July the 5th, scholarships, grant and aids, allocation for basketball, which is the two teams that will be leaving the NWAC and going into the NJCAA for this upcoming school year, was proposed. On the 24th of July, we received provisional membership into the Southwest Athletic Conference for basketball for the 23-24 school year. That's important for a number of different reasons. The main reason is we needed a path to playoffs for the NJCAA and the SWAC, in particular the NJCAA in Region 18. I don't want to get too deep here. They need to provide a path no matter what for us. And the SWAC, I think, understood the importance of that, being that we had to go through them anyways. So I think having fair, competitive games that really told you who deserved to go to the playoffs was important. So we're thankful for the SWAC for accepting us for this year for men's and women's basketball. And then on the 27th of July, press release regarding NIC and SWAC agreeing to those terms for this year. Any questions so far?
Doing great.
Okay.
Keep going.
Transition to conferences again. For this year, men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, softball, and men's and women's golf will remain in the NWAC. And men's and women's basketball will be in the NJCAA and in the SWAC conference. Wrestling's there. Wrestling has always been there, but just to note, they are part of the NJCAA. There's no change there. For 24-25, the NJCAA and hopefully the SWAC, and I say it that way, we do have to get accepted into the Southwest Athletic Conference, or excuse me, Scenic West Athletic Conference for 24-25. Men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, softball, men's and women's golf, although they'll be independent, men's and women's basketball, and men's and women's wrestling. All 9 of our sports will be in the NJCAA, and again, hopefully in the SWAC for competition next year.
And if they don't let us in SWAC, I hear Pac-12 has some openings.
Yeah, well.
Just a joke. Sorry.
Very true. Scholarships allocations for men's and women's basketball. The NJCAA allows a maximum of 15 full scholarships for men's and 15 full scholarships for women's. Scholarships, GIAs, sorry, in my world, they're the same, but I know they're different. But in my world, they're the same. NIC will fund tuition and course-related fees for up to 15 student athletes this year for men's and women's basketball. So we're going to kind of use men's and women's basketball as sort of our test, for lack of a better word, and how we progress forward. Any questions thus far? No? Okay. Student athlete experience, how do we improve that, or are we trying to improve that? We took our student athlete weight room that was in the bottom basement of Winton Hall, and we've temporarily moved that over to the Student Wellness and Recreation Center in the multi-purpose room. It's a much better, I'd say, location probably than where it was. It wasn't necessarily a bad spot, but it's over where fitness is, and I think it makes more sense. Our student athletes and teams have dedicated times that they use that student athlete weight room. When it's not being used by our student athletes, it will be open to the general student population, which I think is important as well. Coaching updates, we hired a full-time men's and women's golf coach. We hired an additional stipend wrestling coach, and we're currently recruiting for a assistant golf coach stipend position as well.
That's been open for a while?
Which, I'm sorry.
The stipend golf coach?
No, just posted it.
We're in the process of posting it. I wanted to make sure we get the head coach hired so they have a say in who their assistant coach could be. I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Trustee Banducci.
I thought, and maybe I'm mistaken, there was a soccer coach hired too, an additional assistant soccer coach, did I?
We're working on that, yes.
Okay, it's been posted but hasn't been hired?
It hasn't been posted yet, but we
Okay.
will post it and we'll get there.
Okay.
Keep going then. Keep going.
Good. In progress, some in progress things that we're going to come back to you guys at a later date, things that we're working on. We have to figure out additional academic support for our student athletes. The move to the SWAC, while it's a good move, it also comes with a lot of travel, and with that travel is student athletes being out of the classroom more. So I think we have to come back with some ideas of how we can support our student athletes more. So we'll come back to you guys with that. Some sort of indoor facility, field house. Headland Building is where softball, soccer, golf currently practice. And while it's been a good facility for us, I know we're sort of on a holding pattern for that to be, I believe, remodeled, renovated. There's something there to do. What that does is that displaces our teams, softball, men's and women's soccer, golf, kind of get displaced. So we got to figure out a place for them to go. While it's okay in the fall and it's okay most of the spring, there's a lot of winter in there. We got to give them a spot to go. So we're going to come back with some ideas and plans for that. In terms of budgeting for FY, what is it, Sarah, 25, right? We'll come back with some budget numbers, what they will look like for our teams, look at some scholarship, what those will look like for our teams. The interesting thing about the scholarship GIA side is our coaches need to recruit starting, I'll say now, but technically they can sign a kid November 1st of this year, but that comes out of next fiscal year's money. So we're going to probably come back with a plan here for you guys to review sooner than later, just to kind of get an idea of what scholarships look like to get some support there. And then athletic fundraising. We got to look at some different areas where we can help out with athletic fundraising. I think that includes goals for our coaches that they have to hit, the Booster Club, hopefully partnering with the foundation in some different areas of how we can get some fundraising going for athletics as well. So it's kind of a brief summary. Dr. Swain, Alex, Sarah, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I've given Alex a bunch of tasks in terms of marketing, recruiting, updating the website, getting scores posted, getting pictures up, promoting the work of the athletes and the coaches, promoting the work of the Booster Club, so that everyone knows about those events and can participate. And so I sent him some comments this morning. I read about something in the paper and I went to the website to look for it, and it wasn't, the scores weren't posted on the website. And so Sean and Sean has really gotten after that. So we've got some real work to do. And part of it is he has a staff member out on medical leave, and And so he's a little bit undermanned, but we'll get all that up to date and be competitive in that area as well.
Yep. Just a couple comments and thoughts. For those that are supporters of athletics, you're probably wondering how are we going to be competitive. Well, the men's and women's coaches, Corey and Nate, have been hustling pretty hard to try to get a team. One of the commitments that was made on Friday by the group was that we were going to do whatever we could to help those guys field a competitive team this year. So they are the guinea pigs, so there's been a commitment to try to help them in the short term with some of the things that have been talked about, books and tuition and the different things there. We'll take a little bit of a longer view for everybody for next year, and we'll have more time to fundraise. And again, as Sean mentioned, some incentives to the coaches to do some of their own fundraising too, and how the school, and I think even the Booster Club will engage and match. And so when we get more time, we can get more. One of the issues that we're having, though, is, in my opinion, is the grant and aid. And I won't go into that a whole lot, but there's a lot of different tuition rates. There's resident, there's district, there's non-district, there's WUI, there's Washington, and that's an interesting challenge because we've got to be careful, and I'm making this commitment right now to the coaches and to the athletes, and I'm going to say this as a board member, and I'm one of 5, so I have my voice. We're not going to go backwards on this. What we have in the NWAC, I know they have like 6 out-of-district tuitions, and right now we're splitting it between out-of-district and in-district. There's a big discrepancy between in-district and out-of-district. I have been proposing a scholarship cohort, if you will, and that we treat all scholarships equally, and they're all treated as in-district. And some people agree with that, and some people push back on that. But I also think it could be extended to things like ASNEC, pep band. If we're giving out scholarships, we should be able to treat the students the same. Maybe we have a really great pep band that's going to, a young person that's going to come from Spokane. If we're going to put them on scholarship, let's treat them the same way. If we're recruiting an ASNEC, they may be from here in Kootenai County, but they may not be. Again, the numbers are showing a lot of folks that are not in district that have enrolled here. That's why the revenue looks good, even though the numbers are a little bit lower. So I think we have to look at that hard, and I think we have the ability to do that. But we have to support specifically the basketball this year. Those are 2 marquee sports that people are going to be watching, and they're gateways to this to the community and to the college. And there's a lot of sponsorships, and you go in the gym, there's the banners, and people that will bring in money, and if the basketball team needs to be successful. So I just want everybody to know that the executive committee that met on Friday has committed to support the 2 basketball coaches in this year because of the condensed timeline, to get them the resources they need to be competitive, to field a competitive team on the court. And then we're going to look at these going forward, and we're going to make sure, because I said this in the June meeting, and I did vote yes for it, but everybody tried to say I was the guy driving the sports. I hadn't. I'd stepped back from this because I was rather discouraged when Jim Forkham left and the work that was being done, and there was a lot of things that were in place that it was quite a setback, I thought, athletically. And then Dr. Swain came back forward and made the recommendation. I was rather surprised, but I also said I wouldn't support it if we didn't do it properly with the proper financial support for these student athletes. Because I have an athlete, but if he's not eating, that doesn't work. I was an athlete. When you're hungry, you can't study. I'm telling you. When your stomach's grumbling and you're tired at night after you've had practice, it's hard to hit those books. So we need to make sure they're fed, they're housed.
Banducci, did I not just see that we're funding 15, which is like the maximum for?
No, what he's saying, that's the amount can be, but how are they being funded? Are they in district or out in district? Yeah. There could be some gaps there, sir.
Okay.
So that's my concern, and there's also housing issues, and I think some would like some stipends for housing. It's less expensive if we put 4 kids in an apartment, 4 young people, in an apartment. It costs us a lot more to put them in the dorms. So there's different issues with housing and how we do all that, and it's the whole package. You got to house them, you got to feed them, you got to educate them, and then you got to, let them be the athletes that they are.
I think between Friday's meeting and what you're saying now, the president and his staff are hearing your inputs, and I think you're going to.
And the last thing is we're going to look at the competition and the peers, and I've been promised that we'll see what schools like Salt Lake City and CSI and Snow and others and where they're at on their scholarship levels to make sure that we are competitive. Because I'm holding to what I said in June. If we're going to do this, we got to do it right. Otherwise, I don't support it. So that's for anybody that's an athletic supporter.
I think we all like to win.
Well, that's the key.
Thank you. Is back to Sean, back to the
That's all I have. Is any other questions or comments?
We'll continue to provide more details, more refinements, and more information as we go forward and figure things out. But we're prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
I guess the only statement I have is this is a huge undertaking. I wish you and NIC and all of us, we need some luck in this too. And let us know how the board can help.
Sure.
We said that Friday. We're saying it now. We can go down the line. I think you have a whole board of trustees who's looking forward to athletics succeeding next year.
We just have to move quick, because Sean mentioned the timeline. They can start signing November 1 for the next year.
Right.
So we're already there.
So we'll have the budget. Again, this goes back to the budget process that we have to give you. This year's going to be weird because we're going to start October with budget assumptions primarily for athletics, but that will feed into other budget assumptions that will come in later in the spring. So we're working on those numbers now, and we'll have those as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. Swain with campus security update. Alex, don't go far.
Strategic plan.
Oh, forgive me, Alex. You can.
But you can
almost-
come up, Alex, because it's fine. Strategic plan update is you all and our ACCT consultant Ken Burke talked about this in his presentation, that we went over the strategic plan, what the requirements were, and what the expectations for the board was. We are working on an RFP that will go out this week for soliciting firms that will help us with that process. It is a huge undertaking. We need folks that can do surveys and focus groups and really engage the community, both Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County, but also on campus, various communities. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. We'd really like to get it done as quickly as possible. So we'll get that RFP out, and then as we get closer, we'll have more updates on that. So that's it. So we can jump to security.
The one thing I was asked to update you about, Dr. Swain mentioned in his president's report, is that working with the Idaho Office of School Safety, which is in the office of the Idaho State Board of Education, was able to work out some details to get a full security audit. They do this for all the K through 12 schools and have started inching into higher ed. So I've been working with Mark Feddersen from there for the last, I think they started that office 7 years ago. So he was happy to put together a program that took the K through 12 model and moved it to address the needs of higher ed. So we're going to start engaging in the security audit with a goal of finishing it by November 1. So that is the update.
And we'll have more as we get through the process, we'll have more, and whatever gaps we find, we will come back with, if there are gaps. I mean, they may do a wonderful project, but if there are any gaps that we see or the board sees that they want to address, we'll bring that back in a report and get your feedback, and then proceed if necessary with further work.
Any questions? Almost done. All right, thank you very much. All right, moving to unfinished, thank you, Alex. Moving to unfinished business, legal counsel, I think Attorney McEmery, you had 2 minutes you wanted to say.
2 minutes, yeah, start the timer. Okay, 3 short items. The first is, why am I here? Because I withdrew on May 24th, because in my view, there's violations of Title VI going on at the college and the administration. So because of such unlawful behavior, according to professional rules for attorneys 1.16, I had to withdraw. It was not a resignation. The press keeps calling it a resignation. Even yesterday, they called it a resignation on page A4. That is incorrect. And so in order to correct that perception in the community, that word needs to get out, and I hope the press does a better job. That's number one. Number two, the NIC Foundation has recently altered its articles and bylaws based on my report. A very smart move on their part because the president of NIC was also a director of that nonprofit, thereby splitting their fiduciary duties between this organization and the foundation. They changed that, so now the president of the college will no longer be a director with a fiduciary duty. They will be an ex officio member of the foundation, no voting privileges. That's precisely the same reason the alteration was made earlier, so that a board of trustee member is a liaison to the foundation and not a director on the foundation board. We don't want to split our fiduciary duties, so I very much want to say publicly that I appreciate the foundation making that alteration based on my report. Number 3, I don't understand the letters of no confidence. This is not a criticism of those letters because I don't know what they are. But my legal history background shows that votes of no confidence are used in constitutional monarchies, of which this is not. And so if anyone from the faculty senate or staff or anyone wants to send me or meet with me about a letter of no confidence and what it means in the academic setting, I would be glad to meet with them on that. I don't understand it. It's for a whole different type of governance structure. But it's been made several times. And so I think it's important for me to be able to explain to the board what it all is all about. And those are my 3 items. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney McNamara. Okay, we have tab 2, quite an extensive packet, and we appreciate Dr. Swain for putting it together. His team went through extensive amount of work getting us this far, and we appreciate the committee that we see your recommendation on there, who's highest rated and different people's opinions. And Trustee Banducci.
Yes, sir. If we're on tab 2, legal counsel, I have a couple of things I'd like to bring to the board's attention, and I'll have a couple of motions, I believe. The first item is that whoever is chosen as the board's counsel going forward, I would like to encourage them, whatever they do, to draw on the experiences of Kelly Drew, who's a partner, and Brittany Adamson, an associate, of Gordon Reese Scully and Mansakani out of Spokane. They've done a fine job and are engaged in all 3 of the current lawsuits that are going on. And also would encourage them to engage with Mr. McNamara, with Art McNamara of McNamara Law, the law office of Arthur B. McNamara, for several reasons. And so whoever is selected, I'm just going to put this out there, it would help you with more of a seamless transition for continuity, just the corporate knowledge that these people have, the depth of their knowledge. They would be an added resource to whatever you bring to the table. They are currently engaged, acting in the best interest of NIC. The learning curve is tremendously reduced by utilizing any way that they can assist you. And it's just very efficient to use them rather than recreating the wheel. Having said that, I have a couple of motions. The first one is titled Motion for Use of NIC Attorney McNamara. I motion that this board maintain its relationship with NIC Attorney McNamara in 3 specific areas, and that the General Counsel for NIC will be responsible for the other daily NIC legal matters. Mr. McNamara's areas of counsel will include NIC policies, which he has been helping with and working with. He will continue to work with the summer 2023 evaluation of Dr. Swain, and continue to work with the board's independent investigation related to a personnel matter that is now pending. And we are, no, let me finish. Mr. McNamara would further be requested to work with NIC's General Counsel and Defense and other counsel as needed so that knowledge of NIC legal matters is transferred and shared properly with other NIC counsel during the transition. We had thought we might get a report from the investigator today during the executive session.
I don't think we need to talk
All I was going
about
to say is
this.
that's been delayed, so that's why he's continuing. That's all I was going to say, sir.
Okay.
We also have not completed the evaluation of Dr. Swain, and Mr. McNamara is part of that. And then again, he's been very helpful working with the policy subcommittee, and he's very good at policies and writing policies. So that's my first motion, is that, and Mr. McNamara would report to the full board and he would be liable to the board as his client on NIC matters, and he would not be subordinate to or have any primary reporting duties to NIC's general counsel. So he will be separate, being used for just these three purposes. So I'm going to read the motion one more time, clean from start to finish.
Thank you.
I motion that this board maintain its relationship with NIC Attorney Mackenber in three specific areas, and that general counsel for NIC be responsible for other daily NIC legal matters. Mr. Mackenber's areas of counsel will include NIC policies, Dr. Swain's summer 2023 evaluation, and the board's independent investigation related to a personnel matter now pending. Mr. Mackenber would report to the full board and be liable to the board as his client on NIC matters, and would not be subordinate to or have primary reporting duties to NIC's general counsel. Mr. Mackenber would further be requested to work with NIC's general counsel and defense counsel or other counsel as needed, so that knowledge of NIC legal matters is transferred and shared properly with other NIC counsel during the transition. And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Second, go into discussion. Is there any trustees who wish to, I see Corkle's interested. Is anyone else? Trustee Corkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Help clarify that a little bit for me, because you refer to Mr. McComber, and then you refer to other counsel also.
Yes, sir, we'll be hiring a...
Can I try summarizing just to make sure I understand?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. It sounds like it's basically retaining McNamara for an easier transition over. If you recall, our last attorney quite dropped us cold. And so I think McNamara is not doing that. He's going to support us a little bit. And then there's three topics that basically McNamara is going to focus on and be responsible for, generally.
So he will continue to be counsel for the board and the college into the future?
Mainly for the board, it seems, in this.
Okay.
He would only interact with this board. And when engaged by the college or trustees on policy, he can work on that policy.
So Brad, the way that I heard the motion is that my scope of employment and duties for the college is now only in those three areas. The college will have some other general counsel, and then it will have its defense counsel, which has been the firm that he mentioned that I can never pronounce. And I wouldn't report to the general counsel, just like those defense attorneys don't report to the general counsel, they report to the board. The board is authorized to hire attorneys under Idaho code, and so the board has the power to say, well, this attorney only does this attorney only does that. So the defense attorneys for the Hagedorn lawsuit, et cetera, they're limited to that. And they have deferred to me as general counsel on a number of things, public records requests, open meeting laws, all that stuff. But now the college needs to move to get a general counsel, and my scope of work and duty gets limited to those three areas, which, I mean...
And those will eventually be timed out.
So if you're asking, Art will not be sitting here at the next meeting.
Right. I love you guys, but no.
Appreciate it.
So the general counsel replaces him in the overall broad duties.
When you're done.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Satisfied?
Terry had
More
her hand up.
questions? Trustee Zimmerman?
Thank you. What kind of time frame are you suggesting? It should have a quantifiable time that you're going to be
I think
able
when
to
those
transfer, right?
three things wrap up, which hopefully...
Well, I thought I heard that you were going to help facilitate the onboarding of the next council. So are you not saying that? So we're going to have two separate councils, and you'll finish out that work for,
Well,
go ahead. Can
how
you
long?
clarify?
Yes, I'm happy to. Yes, while he's doing these other three primary tasks, he will also be assisting with the transition, which I think we had planned on all along.
He's directed to transition, though.
The evaluation should be accomplished as soon as we get it done. The investigation will end when it ends, and we'll get the report, and we'll move from there. So those two things will have their timeline. I do not know what they are, but they should not be that long, certainly the evaluation. The policies is a little more of a project, so that might be a little more ongoing. So I don't have an exact timeline for that as he's assisting us with that, because he's got the corporate knowledge and he's been helping us, and he is very good with that. So that would be the only thing that would be kind of an ongoing until we determine otherwise.
Trustee Zimmerman, part of the problem that we're having is that we don't want the college to not have legal counsel during the accreditation time period when things are at issue. I need to be available. The college needs to have an attorney. So on May 24, when I withdrew, I said that I would only stay on to keep the college out of imminent legal jeopardy, and I've done that. My work for the college has gone down quite a bit. It's nearly non-existent at this point, which is fine. But we still need to make a transition over to the new legal counsel so that we can assure NWCCU that the board is acting properly on these matters.
I'm still a little not certain on the transition, so how will you be working in partnership with the new council at all? How are they going to learn and understand? Except what I think I heard.
Yeah.
He
He's
will
not
be
dropping them cold.
Can I say it this way? At least how I envision it. And I'm going to use your word partnership. He's going to be working collaboratively with them, but he's not going to be reporting to the general counsel.
So he maintains responsibility for these three topics.
Yes, ma'am.
fully.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But
Yeah, his scope, his focus narrows to just those things.
In terms of the transition, I've given the college a lot of legal advice over time. There are memos, there are, legal advice that's been given. And the new counsel, whoever that general counsel is, needs to understand what those things are. So unlike before, in this case, there would be a records transfer to the new general counsel with an explanation of why those things exist, where they exist, how I recommend they keep them according to college retention policies. And if they're like, oh, I don't understand this part of the law, I can point it to them, show them the cases, and give them an idea of where to start, just so that there's a good transition for the board and the college.
Okay. Your motion one more time, if you'd say it for us.
I'll read it one more time. I motion that this board maintain its relationship with NIC Attorney Macomber in 3 specific areas, and that general counsel for NIC will be responsible for other daily NIC legal matters. Mr. Macomber's areas of counsel will include NIC policies, Dr. Swain's summer 2023 evaluation, and the board's independent investigation related to a personnel matter now pending. Mr. Macomber would report to the full board and be liable to the board as his client on NIC matters, and would not be subordinate to or have primary reporting duties to NIC's general counsel. Mr. Macomber would further be requested to work with NIC's general counsel and defense or other counsel as needed so that knowledge of NIC legal matters is transferred and shared properly with other NIC counsel during the transition.
Okay, I think if you could hand that paragraph to the secretary if this passes after this, I think she'll appreciate that. Okay. Any Trustee Zimmerman?
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable with the openness, the timeline here. It just feels like we're going to be hiring an additional attorney for the college, and I'm not comfortable with how that sets fiduciarily with the commission, for one. Like I told you before, I always look at our decisions and my decisions through the lens of what does the commission think about this behavior. So I have a lot of concerns about that. Could we possibly limit the scope or put in a time frame? Is it possible that you can onboard a new counsel so that whoever it is can take on these challenges, if you will, and just pass the baton like in 2 months and not have it be open? Is that a possibility?
I stand with my motion at this time.
Yeah.
Too hard to try to speculate, too hard to try to bound it there. We're not talking a significant amount of stuff, and quite frankly, it's not going to be long before he's really going to be down to just one item anyway.
Yeah,
so I
think
we're fine.
Less than 2 months themselves. I don't see them lasting.
And I know that because the public is chomping at the bit to understand how this fits in with my withdrawal and the 1.16 measure by by circumscribing the scope of my work and having a separate general counsel, it is now up to the new council to deal with the reasons of the withdrawal.
Okay, well, thank
Can
you.
we have-
Don't need any more.
Can we have any idea? You're saying shortly two of the items, maybe in a month, two of the items will probably disappear? Can you?
You're looking to me?
No, I'm looking at,
Oh, to me?
yes.
Well, you know, I serve at the pleasure of the board. So if you, as the board, hire a new general counsel and you get that counsel to say, when can you take over everything that Art's doing, and you put a timeline together with that counsel, then I'm on board.
Well, remember, he's on an at-will contract, so it's not like we're binding ourselves for, 5 years with him or something here. It's the same thing. It's as we use him, we pay him. If we don't use him, we don't pay him.
And
However, I would, Terry, also point out, and this will probably help your concern, NIC policy 7.0104 has to do with continuous professional service contracts of more than 1 year. So I had never planned to be here for a year, and so it's been 8 or 9 months. And so I think it's very reasonable if in the next 2 or 3 months, certainly before December, that I would be completely done. And hopefully the new general counsel, will be hired.
Would you feel, go for it.
yeah, that's comforting, thank you. The next concern I have is your fee structure. Will you maintain the same fee structure? Will you reduce it?
Well, I think he provided us an update, and that's what it is.
It's
Do you remember
maintaining
that?
the same fee structure, you're not increasing your rate?
No, I sent the board a message that I would be increasing my rate to, I think it was $400 an hour on
Yeah.
September
Just
9th,
other
or something
attorneys
like
are
that.
updated.
I know, I read the email, I don't think the community knows about that, and this is an open meeting, and so we should have that
Yeah.
discussion, and do we think it's right to increase the fee?
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? I'm ready to vote.
Sorry, are we done talking about fees? Anybody else got anything to say?
This is something that.
Are you
everyone-
increasing your fee or not?
I am, and I gave the board 30 days' notice as required under my contract. And the reason that I'm doing it is because of the extreme, I would say, reputational attacks that have been made on me by various people in the community, including the press, frankly. And so an attorney gets to account for that when they work for someone. If they work in a highly political charged, highly publicized situation, their fees can reflect that. So I have worked for many months at $325, but I can't do that anymore. But my scope of work is being lessened also. So there should be still quite a bit lower
Okay, thank
legal
you.
rates.
Thank you. Okay. Any other topics you want to bring up? Okay. All those in favor of passing this motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
2 opposed, 2 ayes. The chair votes aye. So, now we're going to select hiring of legal counsel.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Banducci.
Mr. Chair. I'm not going to talk about either of the finalists for the law, either of the finalists of the law firms for the general counsel. I think it's inappropriate to talk negatively. We've heard a lot of criticisms about both, and so all I'm going to do is make my motion, and I'm not going to try to say one's good and one's bad or any other such thing. I have reasons. I have pluses and minuses with both of them. And again, I don't think it's appropriate to try to discredit one or the other. I just have I believe that one would be the better choice. And that's, I'm going to make the motion to hire D. Colton Boyles, Esquire of Boyles Law, PLLC, as the general counsel for North Idaho College.
Is there a second?
I would like to at least present the report as you asked me to prepare. I would like to present that for consideration.
No, we didn't ask you for that, sir. You've
Trustee
given it to us and
Banducci,
we've reviewed it.
he can
We're out
make
of
his
order.
request. Please show respect and support for your president.
Seriously.
You've given it to us. We've read it and we've been informed.
Trustee Banducci, I'm the chair. Please, you're not recognized.
I'll second it for discussion.
Trustee Wagoner, thank you. It is seconded for discussion. Your request, sir, I'm not saying yes, but what was your question before you were interrupted?
So, at the last meeting, the board asked us to go back and ask for 4 different things. We did that, and they asked me to present a complete package, which I have done. The 4 questions that were asked by board members.
You know, Mr. Chair, I have a question. I sent the email, I asked who provided those questions, whose questions were they? You never responded to that email.
We do not need to essentially get into the process, sir. Information has been provided, a board packet has been generated.
The whole board.
The trustees have consumed the information that you're pointing out, sir, and thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate you and your staff's team. I'm
So
sure
I
spent many hours doing it. We have a motion that we're discussing right now, and we have consumed this information.
But I think
Is
there's
there-
one more point that I'd like to make, and
Yes.
that is that one of the applicants for this position was asked to respond to 4 questions by the board.
Yes,
and they were
and
not.
we have all been on those
But they were
email
not.
chains.
They were not responsive.
Sir,
And a
this is not the
non-response-
time to attack one of the RFPs.
I'm not attacking.
Not
I'm giving you a report that a
So, and it's not
non-responsive.
being requested by your board right now.
But you say the
So,
questions
thank
were
you
from
very
the
much.
board, but
Okay.
we were all
The
not involved
motion
with that.
before the board. The motion before the board. If we could have the audience please be observants instead of participants, that would be appreciated. Okay. Okay.
You can run for
You can go.
Everyone? Okay.
Thank you.
The motion before the board is to select Colton Boyle's law firm, I forget, I think that's, help me out, as legal representative for North Idaho College. It has been seconded for discussion. Is there any trustees that wish to, Trustee Corkle? Yep, your microphone, sir, if you could close your mouth.
Excuse me. After having read the resumes of both applicants, and I'm not disparaging anybody's character or anything like that, I'm just looking at the level of experience that is available to this board to hire. And Stevens Clay out of Spokane, it's all they do is education law. And they are just the natural choice to represent this college in a legal sense. And so, I would ask Trustee Banducci to please withdraw his motion and let a motion stand to hire Stevens Clay.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Banducci, in response.
we talk about experience.
If I
There's
could just
3
pause for a second. Just,
No.
No. If I just may. One, the whole college has an opportunity to observe each one of us demonstrate our commitment to an environment of respectful and meaningful discourse when interacting with one another. And Trustee Corkle, I appreciate how you phrased it, your tone and everything, and I thought you did well with that, if I may publicly grade you.
Thank you.
So, and encourage you. So I am personally encouraging each one of us to take a deep breath on this very controversial issue that people don't like about, and make sure that you yourself are demonstrating a commitment to an environment respectful of meaningful discourse when interacting with one another. I'm sorry for interrupting, Trustee Banducci. It is all you.
Not a problem. Well, here's a couple things then, since we're going there. There are 3 lawyers on the staff for those folks there in Spokane that have passed the Idaho bar. Because you have to you got to work in Idaho. Just because they're in Spokane, you still got to pass the Idaho bar, and you got to be able to work here. We have Mr. Williams passed the bar on 2/20/2020. You have Ms. Faust, who passed the bar on 6/13/2018. And you have Mr. O'Neill, who passed the bar on 10/12/2021, whereas Mr. Boyles passed the bar on 2/24/17. So he has more Idaho experience than any of them. Secondly, they three all live in Spokane. Mr. Boyles is an Idaho resident and lives here. Same as the experience of having Mr. McEmmer that's also here that can assist. We also have the folks, Ms. Drew and Ms. Adams, that can assist. We have a lot of competent folks. And the other thing that's concerned is Idaho's talked about the problem, and it's passed how we can't consider the DEI in education and everything. And it's concerning that Stevens Clay has a specific person and website, and they're focused on the DEI, and I think that could end up being a problem as we move forward. So I'm concerned about that. So, you know, experience, how are we going to define experience? Again, they have 3 people past the Idaho bar, all junior to Mr. Boyles with less experience.
If I may,
So,
say the fact, I recently learned that Stevens Clay does not only do, you say all they do is education. They also do the library board. And the recent board, Stevens Clay and actually Mike Ridley, were both the firms that were signed by the library director the day before the board of trustees were supposed to meet for selection of their own law firm. So I find there's interesting name correlations around. So Trustee Banducci.
just one more thing. I've got a copy of the article, and it's the local news there. It talks about, for example, who's going to be the least expensive, who has the experience. When the folks at Stephen Clay were doing some work for the Moses Lake School District, it talks about how they spent about $614,000 on legal expenses in 2020, mostly handling personnel stuff.
Relying on news articles is like relying on the
understand.
Coeur d'Alene Press, and we know how inaccurate that is.
The point is, that's a lot of money, over $600,000.
So if, I would like to say that we never really got what we were hoping for when we started this process in December. I think, at least, I think the initial goal, which went to the Boise firm, was to get a large, nationally recognized firm to kind of help us. And I don't feel either of these choices are at that level currently. And so personally, I cannot, with good conscience, support choosing Stevens Clay. Other trustees may, and I will demonstrate respecting, what does it say, speak with one voice today, that if I get outvoted when it goes to Stevens Clay, then I'll respect that and do my best as a trustee to serve this college. Saying that,
I believe we still have to act on a motion in a second.
we have a second?
Motion in a second?
It was seconded. So if you want to call the question and cut my statement short.
I would like to speak.
Okay, then we have
Thank
Trustee
you.
Zimmerman. If you're calling the question, you call it, but I'm going to keep speaking until you do. And so I do feel through process of elimination, that does go to the remaining person that I see as an option before the board right now would be Colton Boyle.
Chair McKenzie, may I speak before you go any further?
Yeah, I was going to let you speak before we do a board motion. I was hoping to finish mine.
Okay, go ahead.
I have an idea that if we did select to Colton Boyle, that I would like some time to draft an additional motion that I think could get us towards that goal of having a law firm that has nationally 50 state kind of recognized presence. We were just all expressed even being pleased with one that's currently serving us right now. So I do think it would be best to have just general counsel now settled, but there are more conversations I think that can happen. So I'm going to go with Trustee Zimmerman and then Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Chair McKenzie. You know, this evaluation here really, well, first of all, again, I want to say we've saved the best for last, right? And also, we're one bad board meeting away from losing accreditation. So Chair McKenzie, thank you for trying to pull it together from time to time. This is not going to be easy. You know, you look at this evaluation, page 2, tab 2, and, you know, I'm a numbers person also. How can we put forth someone who scored 60%? That's, you know, a D minus, just off the ledge of a failure. I'm not saying that Boyles is a failure, but in terms of competition with other candidates, he doesn't compete. We're supposed to do what's in the best interest of North Idaho College. If you look at page 26 under conflicts that Colton Boyles has put together, this is his engagement agreement. This waiver provision, it asks us to waive future conflicts without regard for who they are. And it does not really address current conflicts. And Art, I have a question for you, or something for you to, a phone call for you to make, please, is to, I would like you to consult Bar Council and see if these provisions in this conflict paragraph here conflicts with Idaho code. It conflicts with bar rules. And I think that we can't even move forward with Boyles because this is a hot mess. The current conflicts, that needs to be addressed. As a board, we can't just waive current conflicts that Boyles may have. Who are the current conflicts? He hasn't provided that to us. We cannot move forward on this. We do have 2 candidate firms that have outperformed the others. We're not even considering those. You know, you wanted to know where the 5th and 6th question came from. It came from me. I called the college the next day and said, I have some additional questions. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a board member. I'm allowed to do that. You know, in that whole thing that came about, Boyles has been accusatory. He's been combative to the very people he's applying for a job to work for. His refusal to complete the interview process, that actually disqualifies him. He's not even a qualified candidate anymore.
I wouldn't necessarily phrase it that way just because you saw it on social media.
I didn't see it on social media. Don't insult me, Greg. The board and NIC are opening ourselves up to liability as well for not following the RFP process. And we're essentially unfair hiring because we're disqualifying really qualified candidates. And aside from that concern, if we're considering the commission, which I think we should be, because we're on extended show cause, we should look to hire the most qualified candidate. And I, again, will reiterate what Trustee Kirkle said is, you should rescind that motion to hire Colton Boyles. We just can't do that. He's not qualified. He has not put forth the proper effort to answer questions. He's disregarded us, and he's got to interact with 90% of the staff. And
Are you going to let Trustee Wagner speak?
I'm done
Thank
for
you.
now.
Trustee Wagner.
Done for now.
Okay, so I did my own analysis without talking to anybody else. Obviously, we have an urgent need for an attorney. My concern was that a lot of the information being provided was marketing of resumes and that type of thing. So I went through and did an extensive analysis on them. And they talk about having 4 principal attorneys. 2 of them are not members of the Idaho Bar. For the 2 that are members of the Idaho Bar, they have 4.5 years experience, and one of them only has Title IX experience, a little bit of that, so they aren't very experienced at all. So I don't know how some of the things we're coming up with, but that's the information I have based on going through all of the information that's been provided. And so I have concerns about what's really going to be provided. Okay.
I do have references. You asked for references last time.
Right.
So one of the questions about references, I have references, and I'll say that the other firm did not respond. So I can provide you reference information from one firm, but the fact that the other firm didn't respond in a normal contracting situation, where we were managing that, the non-responsiveness, I'm not talking about the qualifications, but the non-responsiveness would disqualify someone from being contracted.
Right.
So I
We have
have,
all been on that email stream, and we've seen also even the responses and their reasons for non-response.
You know,
but they were-
we're in an
Trustee
open meeting,
Wagoner,
and
is there
that doesn't
anything
make
else?
any
Trustee
difference.
Wagoner, excuse me, please wait to be recognized. Trustee Wagoner, is there anything else that you would like to say?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. So the motion before the board is to select Colton Boyle as general counsel for NIC. I'm prepared to call the question. Trustee Zimmerman, do you want to say anything more? Trustee Corkle, you look like...
I would like to ask one quick question.
Yes.
How much experience does Colton Boyle have with Title IX?
Well, if after you meet him and you're dissatisfied and you want to fire him in a couple months, we can easily do that. So, all those in favor of selecting Colton Boyle?
Can I,
Trustee,
may I?
what do you want?
Because this addresses Trustee Zimmerman's concern, I think it's a reasonable concern and it's good. I'm looking at page 48 of 118, section 7 of Mr. Boyle's engagement agreement. It talks about conflicts. Sentence number 2. It says, NIC agrees to waive in advance any conflict that might result. This sentence needs to be stricken. It is impossible for him to request you to do that, and it is impossible for you to do that. And so that sentence has to be stricken. If you
Okay.
hire this firm,
Can you
it needs to be
analysis?
stricken.
Can you analysis after this? And
Well, you can hire him, but you can't hire him unless you strike that sentence. In my view, it would be a bad move.
okay, Rod, we will not sign a contract unless you agree with what you see.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you. All those in
Chair
favor?
McKenzie, one more thing.
Is it quick? It's late. Want to go?
Well, it's early by our standards.
We were having mostly good. Yeah, Trustee Zimmerman.
I would like to request Art to follow up on the entire section of this engagement agreement. I would like you to call Bar Council and consult with them, and I would like to have a report back to what they say. Respectfully, I think it's great that you look through this really quickly, but there's a lot here to unpack, and I think there's a lot of things that are not waivable, as you've pointed out. I thank you for that, but I would like you to follow up with Bar Council.
Trustee Zimmerman, I will review this engagement agreement and give a report to the full board. I don't, if I need to call Bar Council, I will, but there's a probability that I will not need Bar Council's help, but I will if I need to.
Thank you. I can't force you to do it, but I think it would be
Your
a
request
wonderful
is heard.
thing for you to do.
Your request is heard. Okay. All those in favor of selecting Colton Boyle as a lawyer for NIC, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Guys, you know, how do you find consensus with this board is what I'd really like to see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to vote aye, and then I'm going to make a request. So the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Colton Boyle is the new general counsel for the college. Congratulations, Colton Boyle.
Mr. Chairman, for the good of the order, I'd like to make a motion.
I was just going to make a motion.
Okay, can I make a motion for the good of the order right now?
Sure.
I would like to see that if we retain Colton Boyles, that he become the attorney for the board only, and that we retain Stevens Clay as legal counsel for faculty, staff, and administration.
Okay. I appreciate your desire to work towards consensus, and I appreciate
second it.
people's views. I'm going to make a friendly motion to that, friendly opposed.
Excuse me,
so that
that's
was
been seconded.
acknowledged. Your motion has been heard. The second is acknowledged.
Okay.
We're discussion before the board.
Okay.
And I'm making a friendly amendment to your motion. And instead of Stevens Clay, that Colton Boyle reaches out to, what's their firm called? Todd, who's Kelly?
Gordon, Reese, Scully, and Mansakani. Is that who
Gordon's, Reese,
referring to?
Scully, and Monsipicani, and find out where cooperation and can exist to, and the president can present any concerns of, and can work with Colton Boyle and find, work towards this consensus of everybody. So, but if there's no consensus made, and I'll leave it to Colton Boyle and the president to put his concerns, but I would expect people expect board decisions.
Mr. Chair,
And
you made a
will leave it to
motion?
people to work. So yes, my motion is to replace Stevens Clay with GGSM. What are they
So
called?
hold on, just so I understand.
Conflict
This is
there.
a chair amendment to the motion. The motion was seconded, we were in discussion. You
I'm making
moved to amend the motion.
Move to amend the
So
motion.
you
I
need a second on that amendment, then you vote on the amendment, and then you go back to the original motion and finish.
Yes.
That is
Thank you,
correct.
sir. We're on to that. So is there a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
Second to discussion? Is there any discussion? Trustee Corkle, what are your thoughts on that? We all, you disagree with this?
I disagree with it, and my motion stands.
Okay, your motion is, stand, it's just not on the floor right now. My motion's on the floor. And I just want to remind everyone, we just came out of executive session, and we just all just expressed great appreciation to GGSM. They've done a fabulous job this past year. They also happen to be nationally ranked 50, and they're in 50 states. Very similar to the type of law firm that we, I don't know. So, anyway, there's a amendment to the original motion before the board. I don't think there's any more discussion. Trustee Banducci?
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. All those in favor of amending the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
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 The chair votes aye. So the motion fails because there's a 2-2. Trustee Wagner, unless you wanted to vote. I hear you're abstaining.
Abstaining.
Okay. So that fails. And back to the original motion.
We have to vote. Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. All those in favor of also hiring Stevens Clay do you want to repeat your motion?
My motion is to retain Colton Boyles as legal advisor to the board only and hire Stevens Clay as legal counsel for the faculty, administration, and staff.
Okay. If I may go to discussion on this too. I don't know. This is essentially changing the terms of the RFP. The people are interested in different scopes of work. It takes a lot to take on a client, and there's different levels of amounts of work. So I don't know if, even if we made this motion, that it would impact either their engagement letters or their interest to work with us. Honestly, there's not many lawyers who are interested or willing to stick their necks out to endure this type of attention. And I appreciated both candidates, or all candidates, for applying. So,
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, let's give them the opportunity to turn it down.
well,
I agree.
we'll find out. All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
I hear 2 ayes. All those opposed, say nay.
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 All right. The chair abstains on this one, so the motion fails. So, Colton Boyle, congratulations, you are general counsel. I think I encourage you to watch this board meeting and kind of understand the different various sentiments of board members and their various concerns. Hearing no other agenda items and the tone of the meeting, we're going to, any remarks for the good of the order?
I will report to the board on the Boyles contract no later than Friday.
Thank you, McNamara. Everyone, the meeting is adjourned. Have a nice day.